in 5 seconds.
It's Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
Get ready for a whole lot more Bill Belichick in your life. Maggie and Perloff right here on Infinity Sports Network. Bill Belichick, big article drops yesterday on ESPN. Perloff kind of outlining why he didn't get hired in this cycle. So now he's going into the media. He's going to be on all the draft coverage with Pat McAfee. We're about to get some of the secrets maybe from Bill Belichick if he'll pull back the curtain. But this is where I really want to start with Belichick, and I'm curious if you agree with me on this. So he gets painted in this article yesterday like he got done dirty by Robert Kraft. That Robert Kraft called or spoke with Arthur Blank, the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, when Belichick had done 2 interviews with the Falcons. He was down the road. He thought he was getting the job. And he was blindsided by the fact that Raheem Morris got the job. The idea that Robert Kraft is the villain and Belichick is the victim here because Kraft said Belichick is hard to work with and you're not going to have warm conversations with him and he's somebody who, can be duplicitous and things like that. I'm sorry. Where's the lie? Like, Belichick's been telling us who he is for 40 years, 20 plus years in New England. You can't be a jerk to people. You can't be ornery. You can't have this, my way or the highway mentality and then get upset when somebody who worked closely with you for 2 decades tells someone else, hey, that's what Bill is like to work with. How is he surprised by this?
Yeah, but it has nothing to do with him not being warm and cuddly. He said he's not trustworthy. They're completely different things. Like saying he's a liar. See, everyone knows Bill Belichick is not going to walk in the morning and give you a big hug and say, how was your night last night?
Yeah.
But
case of the Mondays.
But I think it's a way different thing when Robert Kraft says, don't trust him. That's saying like he's going to screw you behind the scenes. And I think that specifically with the Falcons meant he's going to fire everybody. That's what he was talking about. But still, I think that's a pretty damning thing to say you're not trustworthy. That's a real thing. No one cares that Bill Belichick is not warm and cuddly.
Right.
He's basically saying he's going to screw you over.
Well, it was both things, right? That he's not going to be great in the building, kind of intimated that. And yes, that maybe he's not telling the truth that he's going to work well with the rest of the executive team. But here's my question. Why do we assume Robert Kraft is lying about this? Why do we assume that he doesn't have receipts and that he doesn't have any kind of, working history with Belichick that would lead him to be telling the truth? Now, people jump to the fact that they think Kraft is being petty here because he doesn't want to see Bill succeed outside of New England like Tom Brady did. Right. Listen, all Robert Kraft did was give Bill Belichick power. All he did was pick Belichick over Brady, give him the keys to the kingdom, let him run the franchise basically with no interference for over 20 years, and reportedly was paying him $25 million a year, to boot. I don't see how Kraft becomes the villain here. Because why? Because he let Belichick have a run of the place?
Well, no. I mean, if you're saying, of course he let Bill Belichick run the place. The guy won 6 Super Bowls for him. Like,
right.
What conversation? Of course he's going to let him run the place. But Kraft definitely comes off as kind of like, he definitely puts himself in some waters that he doesn't want to be in, saying that he called another owner and says, don't trust this man, which is code for don't hire him.
Well, they said that both guys were doing background checks, checking references on each other. So Belichick was checking references on Arthur Blank, and Arthur Blank was checking references on Belichick, which I would expect them to do. I guess this to me, and I don't want to source guess here, but this to me had all the makings of a guy like Belichick who felt very burned by the documentary that came out that painted him in a non-favorable light, and that had, the Krafts at least were tangentially part of that documentary, and somebody who feels like, they didn't have control over the story and they want to start, trying to tell things from their perspective. This felt like Bill Belichick actually being scorned and him trying to get his, he feels like he was done dirty again by Robert Kraft. And I think Kraft might have just been telling the truth to Arthur Blank, and Belichick has to live with that.
So you think Bill Belichick wanted it out there that his owner of the last 20 years called another owner and said, don't trust this man?
No.
That feels like a weird thing to leak.
No, I think that Belichick probably, I don't know if it was him or people on behalf of him who felt like he's been negatively portrayed, especially in that hiring cycle. I think they wanted to get their side of it out, which was, Kraft had an axe to burn here. with Belichick. Their relationship was really bad at the end. That was not a secret. Kraft had called him a pain in the tush. All these things were totally out there. So the fact that Kraft would have gone to Arthur Blank and said he's hard to work with and you probably can't trust that he's not going to want the run of the place, that to me is just Bill Belichick earned that review. That's not, to me, Robert Kraft going out of the way to lie and slander his former coach.
It has nothing to do with first of all, it's obviously true. I mean, I can totally believe Bill Belichick not being trustworthy.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think this whole story, I think Kraft looks bad. I think Belichick looks bad. I think the teams that didn't hire Belichick look bad. It's sort of a lose-lose-lose proposition. Like, who comes out of this looking good? Belichick doesn't look good because of the story. I don't know why he would want that out. That his owner's out there saying, don't trust this guy, that's definitely an indictment on Belichick. Makes him seem kind of sleazy.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So now we're talking about Bill Belichick and the story that came out about why he wasn't hired in this cycle and that Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, had negative things to say about him to the Falcons, and that was the team he was closest maybe to being hired by. I think this does make Belichick look sympathetic. It makes it look like Robert Kraft had the knife out behind his back. It makes it, they go through kind of team by team and all the, 7 teams who were in the hiring cycle and why each one of them passed. And kind of, you could explain it away. Like the Raiders, they had just fired 2 guys who came from Belichick. Mike Vrabel was one of Belichick's, favorite players. And the Titans couldn't go with another Belichick person, and on and on and on. I think Belichick is turning sympathetic. And when I said get ready for a lot more Bill Belichick in your life, he is going to do the media thing that coaches like Sean Payton and once upon a time John Gruden did to get themselves back and create another market for them where people miss them more when they're in the media. And, because you never get a call wrong. You never get a draft pick wrong when you're sitting in a studio and you're, pontificating about the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here's the crux of the issue. Why he didn't get hired, because this model where the coach picks all the players is, it's kind of, the NFL, it seems like reading the article, has become like Major League Baseball, where the owners want the GMs to make all the picks, more analytics driven, and Belichick is as old school as they come. The story did repeatedly talk about his failed drafts in the last 10 years. Like, dude has not been picking good players. And I think that's really scary to owners. Like, they don't want him to come in and, look at the Patriots roster. It's terrible. Right. I think everyone's afraid of that repeated. So I didn't think it was an overly pro-Belichick column. And the other thing about Belichick in the media, oh my God, people are praising this Pat McAfee interview. I'm not sure Belichick's going to look as good as Sean Payton and John Gruden on behind a mic. I think he's going to be a little stiff. And when I say a little stiff, I mean, it's going to get painful to watch at some points of the season.
Well, I always said when he smiles, it looks like he's looking at the sun, like the solar eclipse that you're not supposed to look at, without the glasses on. I think that people are going to like what he's bringing to the draft coverage because it seems like he is going to pull back the curtain a little bit. Now, it's weird to pull back the curtain on your secrets because obviously he wants to get back in.
He's not going to pull back anything. What is he going to tell you?
Well, they said they're going to go through and have, he's going to show you what his draft boards look like and how he sort of, would navigate the first round, the second round. I have no idea if he's really going to give you anything.
I think he's going to be I think people are overrating him a little bit. Maybe they're conflating him. Saban's going to be good on TV. I will see about Belichick. Maybe I'm dead wrong and he becomes the most interesting guy out there. But regardless, though, the story paints a picture who's 72 years old. He turned 72 a couple days ago, coming off 2 out of the last 3 losing seasons, really terrible roster. So where's he going to be next year? I feel like there's never been a model where a guy like this has had a second run that's worked. So I understand this article was a big pitch to get him out there again next year. Giants, Cowboys, Eagles, whatever.
Yeah, he's going to just lord over the NFC East
I feel like the future of it is he's going to become the Giants coach and just fizzle out. I didn't read this story and say, man, wow, this is going to be the beginning of the next run for Bill Belichick. I don't think there's another run in there. Do you?
Well, the article also definitely in multiple places said there's a fear that he's only coming back to break Don Shula's record. And that he only needs like the 15 wins, or I think it's like 15 away from Don Shula's record, and then he's going to be out. Again, I think that Belichick, there's a lot of spin going on here, a lot of spin. And I think Belichick has earned some of these negative reviews. And that's why I don't see him as a sympathetic figure. I'm curious to watch him on TV. I'm curious if he's going to get another job. But to be outraged or to, think that all of a sudden Belichick was done wrong here. That's just what I could not get behind.
Do you think anyone sees him as a sympathetic character? It's not based on the story, but just in general, I feel like it's impossible for him to get into the sympathetic because of who he is.
Oh, I think so, because I think, and I know Pete Pilati feels the same way about this, that people were crazy to pass on him this time around. And I actually thought so too. I still think that Belichick can coach.
He's such a jerk, though, that I think everyone believes that, right?
Well, that's true, and that's what I think the bedside manner is definitely hurting him, and he only has himself to blame for that. That's not an invention, that someone came up with. Wow, the guy's really a jerk behind the scenes. No, I think he really is hard to work for.
I think the model is people say, oh, teams are stupid for not hiring him, but nobody's like, oh, poor Bill Belichick, because he's been I can't say the word that he's been to the media for the last. No, it started with an A.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
But
we'll accept either of those.
So it's funny. I understand what you're saying. It's totally true. But I think this article, I think people came away, wow, teams are stupid for not hiring this completely great football coach who's a terrible person. Like, bring in the terrible person. I think the key issue here is the trust thing. Like, to say that your former coworker is not trustworthy is different than he's not warm and cuddly.
But what if it's true?
Well, what would he not be trustworthy about?
Well, the idea that he was going to play nicely with the other executives, or that he wasn't going to want to say over who, the players that they're picking, or that he's not going to have complete run of the place. I think the other part, too, was about the assistant coaches. And the assistant coaches, he wants to bring his people in. And he says, or someone said in the article, the way that Bill describes why none of his proteges have ever been great head coaches is because he's got a lot of soldiers and not a lot of generals. Ouch. But probably true. And so even if Bill comes in, only stays 2 years, and gets all of his people in the building, you can't just pass the baton to one of his assistants, because that is proven not to be a good transition.
Yeah, I think it intimates that there's something even deeper than that. That there's just a general, untrust. That is one thing for Belichick to say, hey, I just want to come in and coach and then do more than that. But this points to something bigger. I'm not sure what that. To me, it probably goes back to Brady Garoppolo. That just Bill is a liar, which is not hard for me to believe. I don't know why. I'm not a huge fan of Bill Belichick's character. He's a heck of a coach. I just feel like this is a lose article. I think that Kraft lost. I think Belichick lost. And I think every team that was described in this story took a stray bullet. The Eagles, the Panthers.
The Panthers took a major stray.
The Commanders.
They can't get through a week. The Panthers cannot get through a week without getting some kind of negative. And the negative for the Panthers, they need any more, bad assessments, was that their owner, David Tepper, likes to comb through all of the coaching decisions and see how it matches up with the data. And they said that wouldn't fly with Belichick.
Oh, yeah. You don't think?
Yeah. That partnership would last maybe about 2 weeks.
Right. And that's why I think any Panthers fan yes, bring in Belichick so he could shut this owner out of the process. The Commanders were pretty much the same thing. They're like, nah, we think we have a better way to run it. And they do not have a track record. Meanwhile, should I be excited about Belichick being out there now for my Eagles? They were the first team mentioned.
They were mentioned. Cowboys were mentioned. I think the Cowboys is the one to keep the eye on. And I know that Jerry's been super loyal to coaches, but McCarthy's in the lame duck season.
Right, but I mean, Belichick is coming from the most broken roster in the NFL. Next year's Cowboys roster might be ugly.
Well, let's see. I mean, if you bring back CeeDee Lamb, you have Micah Parsons. I don't think the roster is that bad. You got to figure out what you're doing at quarterback, which is not a small thing. I
don't know. I think there's holes everywhere. I think they have a lot. They're looking forward to a real bleak future unless something turns around, because Dak's money is going to take up the salary cap next year. Where are they going to get all the help on the interior of the line, all the linebackers? I don't see Dallas as a great spot for Bill Belichick. It's not an ascending roster right now.
Interesting. I think that's the number one place he should go, would be the Dallas Cowboys.
He's going to go from Mac Jones to who? Cooper Rush is the quarterback next year?
No, I think the Cowboys are going to do something to address quarterback this year. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be in the first round, but they're going to have someone. They do have Trey Lance in the building. I mean, he was always something, but who knows? I think they're going to do something to address quarterback. I would guess. And as far as interior linemen and linebackers, I mean, they can find those guys in the draft.
Oh, yeah, right. We'll see. They sure aren't finding them so far.
They've drafted awesome offensive lines for years now.
Yeah, they got old, and they're getting older.
No, now they have young guys, too. It's a mix. I'm not worried about that for the Cowboys, but that's where I would think Belichick would go. Question for you, is he a sympathetic guy? Do you want Bill Belichick He's going to be coaching somewhere next year. Do you not? I think the media stuff is going to help him get back into the game quickly, just like it did for Sean Payton.
Yeah, I mean, the question is where? Like, can he get on a good team? Because I think there's a good chance that he tries to get these 15 wins. He might have trouble. If he goes to the Giants, for example, with no quarterback there, he might have trouble getting that 15 wins. What is it, 15 to get done?
I think it's about 15 to get to Shilo.
I mean, he's looking at the 3 teams listed. The Eagles are in good shape, but the Cowboys and Giants, I feel like that's real dicey. So we'll see. I don't think Belichick's going to come in and win another Super Bowl. I really don't. I don't even think that's a hot take, right? Like,
Dick Vermeil did it.
Dick Vermeil did. It was a different time, a different situation. Also, he was way younger than Belichick when he took over.
Fair. Okay, we've got a lot more to do. You're welcome to weigh in on Belichick, and I think he is most likely to be the next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. And the other reason for that is just you never have to worry about a dicey personnel situation. There's nobody who's kicking Steven and Jerry off the top spot in terms of picking players, in terms of how the team's going to be crafted. It's not even an issue. You don't have to worry about backstabbing and, being nefarious or not working well with others, because if you don't work well with Jerry and Steven, that's it. You don't have a job. So.
By the way, Vermeil was 61 when he came back to the Rams.
Very
Not 73. Yeah, that being said, Mike McCarthy, I don't understand how Bill Belichick's going to be the head coach when Mike McCarthy has 5 more years there in Dallas.
He's getting extended.
I feel like if Jason Garrett could go 8-8 and stay there for 16 years, Mike McCarthy at 12-5. Yeah, that is a relationship that's not going to die as easily as you think, Maggie.
Yeah, that's fair. 855-212-4227. All right, you're welcome to weigh in on Bill Belichick. And again, he's going to be in our lives, guys, a lot. All up and down the draft coverage. Apparently he's never had a cup of coffee. Here's a question for you. I know we got to go to break. If you've never had a cup of coffee, but you're an avid tea drinker, same thing, guys. It's the same thing.
Wait, is he an avid tea drinker?
Well, that's what McAfee said yesterday. It's like he drinks tea and other things. It's the same. You're drinking a hot beverage that has caffeine in it.
Tea doesn't do the job.
Well, I'll agree with you there.
Does for me.
See, you're a tea drinker?
Yeah.
I think if he's like, I've never had a cup of coffee, I'm strictly doing Mountain Dew Sport, I'd be like, oh, geez, coach. That's an EJ special. Those are two very different beverages. If he's like, I'm just a Red Bull only guy. But if you're doing coffee and tea, what's the difference?
Well, so here's the difference, though. Do you think he's drinking tea at like 2 a.m. crushing tape? I don't think so. I think he's not drinking anything.
You guys ever?
I feel like tea's like a morning thing.
Yeah.
With coffee,
you guys ever
you can drink it any time.
Gone cold turkey on caffeine? Have you ever tried it? I did it once, and you get completely used to not having it. It's like sugar.
Can't do it on this show.
Yeah. So it took about it was a week of severe pain because I'm a huge coffee addict. But I was like, I got to cut this out. So I went a week without it. Then I didn't need it.
How bad were the headaches?
It actually wasn't headaches. It was just exhaustion. But it was literally like for 2 months I didn't do coffee. I don't know. I don't remember what happened.
Yeah, why'd you get back on the wagon?
Got back on the wagon. Somebody just like offered me the black stuff, and I was like, yeah, I got to do it.
Yeah, it's funny you were snorting the grounds.
I've seen the average cup of coffee has 100 milligrams of caffeine, 8 ounce, where 8 ounce of tea has 50 milligrams. I understand what you're saying because your body adjusts to whatever it is, but I agree with EJ. There's no way. Like, it's 2 o'clock in Foxborough. There's no tea. No one drinks tea in the middle of the night. That's weird.
So what do you think's getting him through these film studies?
I think
M&M's or something? It's got to be something. No one can just sit there and crunch film twiddling their thumbs. You got to have something there. I
mean, he is such a football nut. Like, he might not need much at 2 a.m.
He just sits there in a room.
I think it's a little bit like I won't say a certain politician. Like certain people have some crazy juice going where they don't need caffeine, and Bill Belichick's totally crazy. So I think they're fueled by something. Yeah, they're fueled by something. Yeah. I don't even know what it is. It's some magical thing. Whatever Belichick's got. First of all, I don't want any of that, but no, I don't think he's normal.
I will take a guess. I think he's on a bike or
all the time,
or on a treadmill.
Watching film. That's my trick.
But late at night, you can't work out too late at night, but your blood, you can't fall asleep right after you run. I think that's where he got his energy. Isn't that his famous thing, being on a bike or treadmill?
No, you're right. Bellotti may have cracked the code.
There was some NFL films did a couple things on him, and you would see him in the dark on a bike watching the next week's film or the next 2 weeks of film.
But a lot of that was the Giants, right? Like that's his famous thing. Like
everywhere.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 73. Is he still doing that? Who knows?
Probably routines. A lot of time it's routines. If you get out of routine, it throws you off.
He's pretty fit for a 72, 73-year-old. Like, he looks good. So it wouldn't surprise me if he was still on that kind of regimen.
Man, I'm on the Belichick regimen.
Do you guys know
I walked during the first half of NFL games.
My uncle went to college with Bill Belichick.
Really?
Yes. My uncle, who's since passed, he said, he was a sourpuss then, and he's a sourpuss now.
Okay.
He was a sourpuss going back to his lacrosse and football days at Wesleyan. Not a bad guy, but he said he was always like, meh.
Can I ask you a question? Is this the same uncle that joined a cult? The famous cult?
Nope.
That's a different uncle?
No. Yeah, no, this. I think the ages didn't really match up. Because Belichick's a lot younger. I don't think Belichick would have been young enough to join the cult.
Oh. We'll get into that story at some point. It's a great story. That if you don't know Perloff's story, you probably watched the documentary on this cult not knowing that we're 1 degree away.
Nice.
It's funny. I bring up that Wild Wild West. I don't think everyone's seen that documentary.
Oh, really? It got really famous, though, on Netflix, I think.
Yeah, like Pete, you have no idea who the Bhagwan is, do you?
Do you know the Bhagwan?
Who? No.
Yeah.
We'll introduce you.
Is it a one-hit wonder band?
Yeah, they sing
Pete would have been
Take on
great.
Me.
Pete, you would have been great in a cult, dude.
Pete would be a good...
Oh, he'd be a star in a cult.
Oh, way.
What qualities does Pete have to make him good cult material?
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you, he still supports really crappy sports teams with no questioning at all about the future or anything like that. You are loyal, man.
I am loyal. So if there's a cult with that, maybe.
If you see a purpose, you will be loyal to that purpose to the end of time.
Yeah.
Actually, he could be a cult leader.
That's what I was thinking. I think more cult leader.
He looks
than
like a cult leader, yeah.
What's the pay?
I don't know about the pay, but the perks, I think, are pretty good.
Oh, the perks?
As long as you can stay out of jail. 855-212-4227. That went off the rails. Belichick. Another cult leader. Belichick. Yeah.
That I could see.
We can see. All right, coming up, who around here has some bragging rights today? We get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 2 minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This portion of the show is sponsored by the new Hyundai Tucson, available with complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Now it's easy to use your phone to control your Tucson. You know, every great game has a name, right? Last night's game, my Sixers beat the Miami Heat. It's got to be the free chicken game, right? Have you ever seen a group of people more excited for free chicken in your life? The Sixers have a promo: if an opponent misses 2 free throws, then everyone gets a free Chick-fil-A sandwich the next day. Caleb Martin, brick. They basically stopped the game as if somebody had just set an all-time record. It was a monument. Mike Breen was into it. Sixers from that point on went on a massive run and won the game.
Didn't Boban just do this the other day for the crowd in L.A.?
It was the exact same promo.
Yeah, he missed the free throw, so everybody got chicken.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. But it just made me hungry for Chick-fil-A. I think that's more exciting than the Sixers' future prospects, because it basically was Joel Embiid limping up and down the court versus Jimmy Butler limping up and down the court.
Yep.
And then you got Giannis limping up and down the court. This is all, if the Celtics can't get to the finals this year, then what are they doing?
Well, this is it. I mean, I don't know if they're going to win when they get to the finals. They've been there before and they've lost, but you've basically got the professional sports version of the red carpet. No disrespect to the Knicks.
Also
no disrespect,
injured.
But yeah, Knicks are also injured. There's just so many flawed teams. You know, Giannis and his health with the Bucks. There's just nobody is right. So if the Celtics can't cruise to the finals this year, I don't know if they'll ever be able to.
It is the easiest path. I mean, I think the Knicks, EJ's Knicks, are the only team that stands in their way, really.
I agree.
But even that being said, the West, I think there are 8 teams in the West who are better than every other team in the East. So it's going to be ugly. But feeling the Sixers, our new boss, by the way,
Ryan Hurley, yeah.
Huge Knicks fan.
Yep.
He is, but he's built like us, Maggie. He's a nervous Knicks fan. He assumes the worst thing is going to happen at all times.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah. No, EJ is more of a confident. He always fights. He has not been burned as much as we have. Like
he just had a lot of years of just really unlikable, unwatchable, fun teams, and now they're fun.
Which is good, though, because he doesn't know disappointment, because they actually, like, you know disappointment really well as the Bills. I know disappointment as a Philadelphia sports fan. EJ has a glimmer of optimism. I'm glad
Keep it, EJ.
Yeah, I'm so glad
hold on to it.
Our new boss is beaten down by years of defeat. That's
and long commutes. Like, he's got it all.
Yeah, my sports fans friends,
this guy.
I want them to assume the worst is going to happen at all times. That's why I like you, Maggie. Like, you during a Bills week, you're not talking trash. You're just like, you basically want to hide. You're so scared it's all going to go bad.
Yeah, no. I mean, accurate. We were talking about Bill Belichick. New article drops on ESPN. Basically says that Robert Kraft shivved him, to the Atlanta Falcons, said he was not trustworthy, shouldn't hire him. Matt is in Massachusetts. The article said a lot of other things, too. But Matt wants to weigh in from Patriots country. Hey, Matt, how are you?
Oh, I'm lovely, Maggie. I got to tell you, and by the way, good morning, Andrew. Here's the thing that just cracks me up about this whole thing. This is clearly Robert Kraft deflecting all the blame to Belichick for the way that everything has just gone completely sideways. Mm-hmm. And for the record, I was one of the many that said Belichick had to go. Having said that, how about taking accountability, Robert Kraft, for once in your freaking life? Just take accountability.
How's Kraft respond? He gave the whole keys to the kingdom to Belichick. What more was he supposed to do?
Well, here's the thing, Maggie. He's got to sign off on letting Brady walk out the door for nothing.
Listen,
after Belichick said, hey, we can win with another quarterback.
Okay,
we can win. Kraft's got to sign off on it.
I know, but that's the thing. That's why I think Robert Kraft is not right here. He doesn't, here's the thing. I don't think that Bill Belichick, pardon me, has a right to be mad at Kraft. Kraft chose him over Brady. What more do you want? He chose him over Brady when there was a fork in the road, and he took the coach.
That's my point, Maggie. And,
he made the wrong choice. Well,
he did. He completely did. And, this is what happens, Maggie, when you got a meddling owner. It's just like, I want things done my way now. My team again. It's like, okay, you want your team.
Okay.
Here it is, Robert.
Matt, he wants the team back after 24 years of letting Belichick run the place.
Yeah. By the way, one quick thing I just wanted to mention. I'm completely with you guys on the Celtics. If they don't get out of the East this year, I want to volunteer bringing in the biggest giant moving truck and just saying, load them up, one more time, please. Load them up, because they can't win it this year, then they're not winning it any other year.
Matt, solid call. Glad he checked in. We'll disagree about the Belichick-Kraft thing probably till the end of time. Yeah, I think Kraft has to feel like he got burned because he chose Brady so many times, and then in the moment when he really needed to choose Brady again, he didn't.
Yeah.
But do you think you were really keeping Brady and starting over with a new head coach?
No, that would have been hard. That's a great point. How do you fire Belichick? You had to get rid of one of them. That being said, I don't think Kraft is getting another ring. I think that's. I feel like the Patriots might be. I kind of agree with what Matt's sentiment is. They might be a perennial top 5 pick team for the next 4 or 5 years.
Well, listen, it's hard after you've done all that winning, and now you got to move on from the quarterback and the coach. You're going to go through some lean times. That's probably to be expected. I'm not saying you should accept it as a Patriots fan, but you can't be that shocked. The other part of it, that's just the reality of professional sports. You were on the mountaintop for so long. Here's the other part we learned in that article. Kraft wanted to get rid of Belichick after 2022.
Yeah, that would have been a better move because last year was terrible.
Exactly. So, and his son talked him out of it. It's not like he's making, to me, Kraft isn't making these egregious mistakes. He's making, you can see the logic behind all of this. You go with the coach over the player who's in his mid-40s. You keep the coach one more time as like a loyalty thing. These are things that are not, that's not like stretching the imagination. He would make these decisions.
Yeah, totally. Honestly, I would hope for Patriots fans that they sort of have a clean break. They just get rid of all this energy. Like, let's move on. Let Elliott Wolf run the team. See what they do. They might get a star quarterback this draft. This all feels kind of ugly. Maybe the best thing that could happen for Patriots fans is this article is the end.
Well, the other part is if you're a Patriots fan, it seems like, and I know all these guys got rich and famous off of winning, but man, the Patriots fan really got the best part of this because it seems like behind the scenes, this was an awful situation. And maybe that's the way it's being painted now, but nobody liked each other, totally dysfunctional, head coach and quarterback going at it, head coach and owner going at it, factions being lines drawn in the sand, people fighting for credit, leaking things to the media. The fans really got the best part. They got the winning and didn't really have to deal with any of the drama. It seems like inside the building, winning was such a burden. And it just seemed like everything was so hard, and maybe that's just the way it gets painted now.
I would also say the fact that 70% of the sports media comes from Boston does not help the situation. If this all happens somewhere away, Boston has pretty much every reporter at ESPN has some Boston connection. So I think it is also a very well-covered team. They can't hide in New England.
Well, that kind of success you're going to get well covered.
If they were in Charlotte or if they were in somewhere in the Midwest or Indianapolis, I don't think the scrutiny would be the same. I mean, about the Boston media thing.
But I think the Dallas Cowboys dynasty got scrutinized. I think the Golden State Warriors dynasty has gotten scrutinized. I think we'll get there with the Chiefs.
I don't think we'll ever get there with the Chiefs. I mean, you think Andy Reid lets this stuff go on? No way.
There's a lot of dirt, I think, probably with the Chiefs. I think there's dirt everywhere.
No, I don't think so. I think it's really, this is all Boston-y kind of stuff. It doesn't feel, listen, there's a lot of energy around Boston too. Like do you know what I mean? Or maybe I'm totally off. Like I feel like this is inevitable. It's kind of like when Northwestern has a scandal. Yeah, you want to be really careful when you have the greatest journalism department in the country around you. Like
the student paper brought down the head football coach.
Basically, you don't really want to mess around when you got the Boston Globe sitting right over your corner. I just think that this is a lot of Patriots energy. I'm not sure how we got on this topic, but I feel like this is a team that's going to be picked apart forever, regardless. How many documentaries have there been already? There's Tom versus Time. There's the Patriot. There's been three documentaries, 17 books. It's going to be picked apart forever. But that being said, it's time to move on. It's time to start over. Hopefully they'll get Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Could this all work out?
We'll see. Andrew Bogusch is here with headlines. Hello.
Good morning, guys. Those headlines sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save nearly $750 on average. So call or click today and find out if we can save you hundreds on your car insurance. If you score a career-high 42 points in a game whose stats don't count, did you actually score a career-high 42 points? I'm asking you, Kobe White.
Kobe, open right elbow three. Bam! That's a 40 bag for Kobe White. It's a what? 124-102 Bulls.
Fair question on Bulls Radio. The 40 bag came in a 131-116 rout of the Hawks in the 9-10 game of the East play-in. White's previous career best was just 37.
I didn't come into the game saying I was going to put the team or whatever, but I just wanted to be aggressive and take what the defense gave me and, just try to lead. Coming to the games, I just want to impact winning on both ends of the ball, and that's what I focus on. And then just tonight, I just was aggressive and things was going my way.
The Bulls will need more points tomorrow night when they and the Heat decide the 8th seed in Miami. The Heat losing the 7-8 game in Philly last night, 105-104, despite a 13-point lead. Their head coach, Eric Spoelstra.
We will do this the hard way. That has to be the path, right now. We're going to rest up, treat up, rally around each other up, get ready for Friday, and again, embrace these competitive games.
And get ready to go home up.
And hopefully they'll have Jimmy Butler on Friday. He played this entire game, finishing with 19 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals, but he hurt his right knee in the first half. Butler will have an MRI today with the team, reportedly worried about his MCL.
I'm sorry, I have a question here. You're right about the stats don't count.
Yeah,
that's what I was going to ask. So what happens to them?
It just goes into the ether.
Because I'm looking at the game logs here on Basketball Reference, which is a popular website that people use for stats. Even LeBron's game against the Pelicans the other day.
Yeah.
It's just not here.
No, it's like... It's like purgatory. It's not a regular season game. It's not a postseason game. It just happens and then it's gone.
So it doesn't count for your point. It's not a postseason game.
Nope.
It doesn't count for your minutes, points.
Nope.
Any career numbers.
Nope.
What are we doing?
Trae Young also is the most dominant. He's the historic playing guy, right?
Until last night.
Yeah, that was he was 3-0 heading into last night's game. I think, and his stats were crazy. But by the way,
they got to fix that.
You guys do not think the Heat are going home. Do you really think that they're not going to beat the Bulls?
No, Pete said that.
Jimmy Butler not being there, I think that has a big.
He's going to play, isn't he?
They don't know.
MCL injury?
He was out there the entire game. You're telling me Jimmy Butler is the ultimate gamer. He will be there.
All right, fine.
The Heat are
still he's hurt.
Yeah, but so is Alex Caruso. He's already out. Right. So
I agree with
I
Pete.
would trade Caruso for Butler in a heartbeat. If I got to play a game where Caruso hurt and Butler's hurt, the Bulls, I'll take my chances.
Well, I think Butler's going to be on the court. I can't imagine that he could play the entire game after that, and then he's going to go away.
Well, there's adrenaline that helps you get through a game. And I was surprised at how decent he was playing, but he did not sound all that optimistic in the postgame about how he felt. So I wonder if adrenaline gets you through that game, but then day of soreness, trying to get right, like by the time you get to Friday, maybe you feel entirely different.
Did you guys notice he had the same injury as me, MCL? I skied down the mountain, and then I couldn't walk for a week. So maybe you're right.
A week?
But don't underestimate.
Like
Jimmy Butler on one leg is going to beat the Bulls. I'm telling you, that guy is the toughest dude in planet Earth. He is the best playoff player. Even last night, thank God he got hurt. The Heat win that game by 25 points.
They were looking real good.
Yeah.
And they're up by 12 at halftime, right?
I would make a bet here, but I am not rooting for the Heat or the Bulls.
Yeah,
Yes,
it'd be
can't
hard
do
for
that.
you.
One other NBA note, it's Chris Paul. After a fairly nondescript season with the Warriors, CP3 says he wants to play another one. Next year will be his 20th in the league. The question is, where will he be playing? He has a non-guaranteed $30 million salary for next season, and the Warriors want to get under the luxury tax threshold. They are currently $2 million over it, with that Klay Thompson decision pending as well.
So this is going to be like Vince Carter or one of those guys like, I didn't even know they were still in the league. It's going to be like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
It felt like that already. I mean, every time I put a Warriors game on, I was like, all right, Chris Paul's on the Warriors. Oh, right, Chris Paul's on the Warriors.
Go into the Hall of Fame with a Warriors jersey? Like, how does this Warriors stint rank in his
I think, don't you at some point have to retire to even go into the Hall of Fame? I don't know.
Great question.
If we're going to be there for a while.
That was just a sad experiment. I'm sorry. Chris Paul as a Warrior did not do anything for me.
Here's the thing. He wants to keep playing, I'm sure, but also he wants to win a title. But at this point, are you going to get any credit? Does Gary Payton get any love for the title he won in Miami? I bet most people don't even know that.
They don't know that he was there, which is the problem. But that's the title he's going to have to try to get. He's not going to be some
It's not going to mean
He's not
as
going to be a
much.
starter on a team that wins a championship at this point.
Well, I don't even give Peyton Manning credit for that Super Bowl. You think I give Gary Payton credit for Miami? I'm a big believer. No credit to a glom on end of career.
Perloff doesn't give any credit to Peyton Manning because he played in the AFC South.
Well,
you had expansion teams, and that was easy.
You could not possibly say that was a Peyton Manning Super Bowl when the dude threw 9 touchdowns and 17 picks in the year 2015. And Gary Payton, the same thing. No, I'm not giving Chris Paul anything here.
The Boston Red Sox beat the Guardians last night 2-0 at Fenway in just 1 hour and 49 minutes. That is the quickest game in the majors since June of 2010. When Armando Galarraga kind of pitched a perfect game. Last night, Boston's Tanner Houck threw just a complete game shutout.
You probably get 1, maybe 2 of these a season if you're lucky. To where you just go out there and you feel like you can do no wrong.
Houck allowed just 3 hits, no walks, while striking out 9. And Iowa has kind of found CaitlinClark's replacement. Villanova guard Lucy Olson is transferring to Iowa. She averaged 23.3 points a game this past season. Only Clark and Juju Watkins scored more. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thank you so much. Coming up, we check in on our favorite college football head coach. Don't move. Maggie and Perloff, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. 3 minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Daily.
Do you believe that?
Deion.
You believe that?
This portion of the show is brought to you by Wesley Financial. Stuck in a timeshare and want out? Contact Wesley Financial Group now and get a free timeshare exit information kit at wesleyfinancialgroup.com. Check in on Deion. Busy day in the portal. Perloff and going the wrong direction. Losing talent in the portal for Colorado. And the headliner was Cormani McClain, who is a 5-star corner who was on the Buffaloes last year. Didn't contribute a ton last year, but again, the 5-star, and he has entered the portal. Also, starting offensive lineman Savion Washington, who is the 6'8", sort of standout guy, started 10 games at right tackle. He has also hit the portal. This doesn't mean these guys can't come back to Colorado, by the way. You can hit the portal and you can always come back. But we thought it was an interesting tactic and recruiting that the coaching staff and by extension Deion's kids are using to try to lure talent to Colorado. Was this on Instagram, EJ, or was it TikTok?
Yes, Instagram stories.
Instagram stories, and it was Shilo, who's the linebacker, right?
Safety.
Safety, linebacker, yeah, safety. and he said, if you're a defensive player and you want to come to Colorado, send me a DM. If you're an offensive player, hit my brother Shador in the DMs. And that's how they're getting guys, just outright recruiting on social media. It's a unique tactic.
Love it. Well, I mean, this is a unique school, right? I mean, Deion came in and said, you're all fired, basically, to his team. Yeah, it's funny. Why not, right? Listen, I'm obviously an old, but it just seemed like it's kind of a way to recruit young players via social media. And I think we all know, like, basically players recruit other players, right? Like, if you were on the Elite 11 circuit, you're going to get your guy. Well, I guess that's all quarterbacks. But generally, though, is this just more nakedly what actually always happens with the transfer portal?
It mirrors the pros, I think, a little bit more about guys want to team up together and using,
Oh, you don't think that the college guys are like, you got to come over here from Florida? Because they're all friends, I assume.
I just think it's funny that it's instead of going to the coaching staff, instead of going to one of the assistant coaches, like, no, just DM me directly. I'll get you to the right people. DM the starting quarterback of the team, and we'll get you to the right spot.
I love it. I think this is good. By the way, the guys Deion lost, like, he lost an offensive lineman. You saw that offensive line last year. Good riddance.
This was one of the good ones.
Well, I know that they want to have 5 new starters next year anyway, and they brought in 5. They already, in the last transfer portal window, they brought in 5 new starters. So that does not bother me. This is Deion. He's going to lose a lot of players and bring in a lot of players. So I like it. I kind of think this is kind of cool that Shador and Shilo are the recruiting heads. And they're old too. Like, they're 20, 22, 23. Why not?
Use what you've got.
Yeah.
There you go. That's your daily Deion for today. EJ, you didn't love this.
I could not disagree more with Perloff. This is a clown show. Let's be clown show. Okay?
Well, it's always been a clown show, but it kind of worked last year.
Well, they won 4 games.
They went from how many wins to 4 games?
1 win to 4.
1 win.
So that's a 3-game improvement,
right? But
with a new team.
The conference record was about the same. When they played against teams in their conference, they got smoked.
They somehow beat TCU and Nebraska.
Those teams suck.
I mean, still, that's way better than they were the year before.
I don't know how we could look at that season and say that was a success given how it ended. And I'm sorry, I know, yes, in the NFL, NBA, you see guys recruiting certain players. We don't have a soliciting DM saying, hey, if you think you're good, just DM the quarterback or DM me. Like, you're supposed to have a scouting department. Like, schools take this seriously. It's not just like, oh, we're just going to anybody want to come over, just give us a call, whatever. Like, there are teams that are targeting players all throughout the season. All we've heard about is complaints about people recruiting players during the season.
Well, what I think is interesting about this is someone going to actually DM Shilo or Shador Sanders who would not have already been on Colorado's radar? Are you all of a sudden going to get some guy who's just out of nowhere? Maybe then, if it's someone who's really out of the radar, but off the radar. But again, I think the Colorado staff has to have a pretty good sense of what's going on. Here's where I'll disagree with you. I think a lot of people did see Colorado year 1 as a success. No. I know the 4 wins but look at what happened. I mean, it was a phenomenon. It was one of the biggest stories, if not the biggest, through the fall. And Deion kind of put Colorado back on the map. So yeah, the win total wasn't very high, but this is why year 2 to me is so important, because you have Shador coming back. So you've got your quarterback. You've got Deion year 2 on the, FBS level, and you have expectations. Yeah,
you're in the Big 12 now, which is a lot easier than that crazy Pac. The Pac-12 last year was amazing. I don't know how it happened. In their final year, they had all the good players. Yeah. So I think the schedule is going to get way easier. I think he's going to maybe have a winning record this year. So maybe that doesn't fit. Is 8-6 or whatever? I don't know how many games they play. Would that be a success or no? It depends where you put the bar for Deion. I know Deion talks championship.
Yeah.
But if he could go from 4 wins to 8 wins, is that good or is that not enough with Shador Sanders?
And I think they've got to keep up. Like, I don't know if you're going to be able to match the whirlwind publicity of The Rock being there and all rap stars and actors and all of that stuff coming to the games, but to continue to grow and make it an event to be at Buffalo games is another part of this. And now you're going to have to win to do that. So, yeah, I think 8 wins, if you double your win total from a year ago. Now, granted, you do have one of the best quarterbacks in the entire sport. Right. So
if they can't get 8 wins with Shador, what's going to happen next year? But I think this what you're calling a circus is the new thing. I don't know. I think there's a method to this madness. Maybe I'm totally naive here. But we're all going to watch it. you can say what you want, EJ. You were definitely going to watch that team.
I'll be watching.
I didn't watch them. They were on that 6-game losing streak. I'll tell you that much.
Coming up, major change in the NBA.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. 15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
CaitlinClark was in Indianapolis yesterday, Perloff. Hey, welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, mornings here on the Infinity Sports Network, and doing a press conference with the Indiana Fever. Reportedly going to sign this massive Nike deal.
Yeah.
She's getting her own shoe. And with the new attention now on the WNBA and the increased attention on the WNBA, more people watched this draft. It was like over 2 million people tuned into the draft, of 500,000 watched last year. I mean, the increases here are impossible to ignore. And that's where the pay differential between the WNBA and the NBA has kind of come back into the spotlight, because I think some people were surprised just at how little the women make. You know, CaitlinClark will make $76,000 her first year as a salary, as opposed to the men who, if you're a number one overall pick, you're walking into about $20 million. And I understand when people first come to this and they're going to feel a little bit of an outrage, right? Because CaitlinClark is such a big star, and because she's, and all these women have done so much to help grow this sport. But I think we have to be a little realistic here. You know, the NBA has a really deep advantage for how long they've been around. Their marketing partners have been around for a long time. And I think as the WNBA is going to continue to grow, they're going to get more TV exposure, more media rights deals that are millions and millions of dollars. I think the salaries are going to increase. You know, is it going to get to where the NBA is at this time? I don't think that should really be the goal right now. I think the goal is to keep increasing these salaries and try to make it so you're not just having more of a like living wage, because in some of these big cities, $75,000 in New York is not going to go very far. You got to pay an agent off of that. You're going to have major taxes taken out of that. So more, you know, commensurate with the stars they are. And I think you are going to see the salaries grow. It's not going to be overnight, but I think you're going to see a major bump.
Yeah, I mean, listen, TV networks are dying to get live sports.
Totally.
And they're going to see that 18.9 million number and just start pursuing WNBA and women's college basketball like crazy. I do think that at some point you're going to run into a couple questions.
Okay.
Is the product as entertaining as the NBA? Now, I'm not positive on this, because the game is below the rim, where the NBA you get the high flying dunks. Sure. And also,
now the NBA is at the 3-point line, but yes, also dunks.
Yeah, I mean, there were some crazy dunks last night.
That's true.
It's a much different game. Second of all, will women's sports ever be as popular as men's sport? Is there a women's sport? If you look globally, like I think there are some sports. Yeah, but can soccer draw? Soccer has trouble drawing crowds and fans, and they're having trouble having leagues in America for women. So I'm curious too. And now what's the question? Is that sexism? What is it? Why are women's sports not as popular as men's?
Well, I just think right now, I think the men's sports still had this really gigantic lead on women's sports. You know, there's been this, you know, we've had men's sports that, you know, leagues have been around for 100 years. You know, women it's been later to the game because of, we can go into that, you know, the history of this country and how women weren't given a shot because of traditional gender roles and all that stuff. So I do think that there's some catching up to do. Not all sports. Let's keep it to basketball for a minute. And I think that you're seeing what happens with a lot of the men's sports, but it was just a long time ago. You have a moment that you can capitalize on where things can start growing very fast, where you can start getting expansion into new cities. Right now, the women's media deal is really under the umbrella of the NBA. And they make about $60 million off their media rights deal. The commissioner of the WNBA thinks they could double that when their CBA comes up in 2025. So, again, I think it's coming. You know, I get people coming to this and saying, oh, gosh, what an outrage. How could she only make this little amount when the men are making so much? But I think we're getting there with the eyeballs and the interest and the media rights, that it's all coming. I'm optimistic.
Do you think they'll ever be on par?
I don't know. I mean, right now they're playing half as many games. It's a 40-game season as opposed to an 82-game season. It's a summer league, and generally women do supplement their income by going and playing overseas. Will it ever be on par? I can't predict. More stars like Caitlin.
Well, it feels going from $75,000 to $45 million a year.
Yeah, it's a big gap.
I can't do the math. Is that a 800-time jump? I don't know, on par. Here's the other question, too. The fan bases. This could get into gender stereotype. Are there as many women's sports fans as men's sports fans?
Well, I don't know, because here's the thing. I think the big part of this boon, this here for Caitlin and for the WNBA and for women's college basketball was a lot of men getting on board.
Yeah, I think there are more. You don't know if there are more men's sports fans?
I think there definitely are.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. And I think more men are betting. I think more men are, think about our audience and who we're talking to. Yes, we're talking to women, but it's, we're mostly talking to men. Even if you judge like radio ratings or TV ratings, it's men 25 to 54. They don't even factor women into those ratings, because if you did, you would get killed in the ratings. Like
right.
That's generally.
But that could change too, though.
It could. Listen, I think women got drawn into Caitlin and the WNBA, and I think men got drawn in, and that's not a bad thing. You want everyone in.
Right.
We talk about casuals, and I hate when people say, "Oh, you're just a casual fan." Are you crazy? Everyone should want casuals. That means that you have crossed over into a new spot. My mom was watching CaitlinClark in the championship game. I mean, she's not watching NBA games. And so you got to capitalize
big deal.
On the moment. And there's nothing wrong with that. So the women's draft, the WNBA draft, the viewership was up like 300%. You're asking me how quickly could women potentially close the gap with the NBA? I don't, in terms of salary, I have no idea, but I know they're closing quickly on eyeballs, right? Where especially in college basketball, the most watched college games and stuff like that. So it's at a rapid pace.
Ooh,
so how could I put a ceiling on where they're going?
That's funny. I think it's gonna be hard because of the summer league for the WNBA to close in on eyeballs. That'd be a lot. That'd be a bigger jump.
Yeah, but NBA ratings have been going down. So
interesting. Here's one thing, and I think both you and I agree on this, that it is not women should get paid out of some sort of ethical stance. Like the market should determine some of this. And I think I agree with you. Like the market is churning toward women. Yeah. Obviously, CaitlinClark's about to do a $1 billion deal, a 10-figure deal with Nike. So obviously the money's going to come. But I think you get into this question, should women be paid the same for the sport just out of some sort of ethical balance here? And the reality is the markets do play a big role.
I think that's it. I don't think that it is a meritocracy like people want it to be. Now, listen, the women's soccer players were fighting for equal pay, and they got equal pay. And the reason why is because same type of schedule, they were getting more eyeballs than the men's team, and they were having way more success than the men's team. So they're out there winning World Cups, and the men are barely qualifying, and they fought for equal pay, and they won it. And a lot of it was equal pay, equal access to resources. They wanted the better meals and the better travel accommodations and the better food and all. I already said meals, and the better practice facilities. So they fought and they won.
But that was a country team, right?
Yeah, that was the U.S. women's national team. Right.
But how are they doing in the professional leagues?
So the women's what is it, NWSL, I believe, just signed a big deal, I believe, with Amazon. So I think they're making some really good strides there. To me, listen, there's two things here. I do think the market is what pushes this. Do you want to watch? Do you want to buy season tickets? Are you demanding this type of coverage? The public in a lot of ways moves the needle here. And then the other part too is we can't make the stars. And when I say we, I'm talking about the media. I mean, we can, people can try. You can try to push people to the front. Hey, this person should be the face of the league. This person should be this and that. The public, to me, always determines who the stars are. Believe me, if you guys listening didn't want to hear about CaitlinClark, we would not be talking about her. And for a long time, the audience didn't want to hear about the WNBA, the mass audience. And now they do. So what do? We give that to you. A lot of times we are following the cues of the public, and that's where the money also follows the cues of the public. Do you want more commercials with CaitlinClark? Do you want to buy her shoe? Do you want to watch her when she comes to your town? We just follow the trends of the public.
What about the rest of the WNBA? Do we want to watch them?
That's a great question. What do you think?
I'm dying to find out how CaitlinClark. No, I think Caitlin Clark games are going to have huge ratings, and I think the other WNBA games will go up a little bit. But I wonder if there's going to be, will the average Caitlin Clark do double of a non-Caitlin Clark game? I think so, probably,
Maybe.
at first.
But you know what? I think that it is going to be a little rising tide lifts all the boats thing because I think this draft class was really good. So Caitlin is obviously the number one, and she's the star. But I think people are going to be curious about Angel Reese. I think they're going to be curious about her and Camila Cardozo teaming up together. That kind of continues a college storyline.
But those are inside players. It's not as exciting, right?
Maybe not.
I mean, I don't think centers are as captivating to young people. That's why centers never get the good shoe deals in the NBA.
I don't know. I saw Joel Embiid being pretty awesome last night, and he was pretty captivating.
Really? Oh, my God. Well, that's the old thing. Like, shoe companies don't like centers because I think people don't relate to them.
Well, Sabrina Ionescu has her own shoe. Caitlin will have her own shoe. So they're going with the guards. They're going with the shooters.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going back to the men's game. Like, who would buy like a... Give me a set.
The Patrick Ewing?
Yeah. The Patrick Ewing and the Akeem were the worst shoes. Like, nobody would wear those.
Yeah, the Kobe's are the ones that
people
love.
Yeah, you want Kobe's and Jordans. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think you're going to want Caitlin Clark's and Ionescu's. And, I think when Juju gets to the WNBA, that's going to be another. That's the thing, though.
Another temple. You need stars.
Yeah, I think Caitlin Clark has sort of developed some other stars, too. I think all of a sudden everyone knows who Juju Watkins is, and they would have known 5 years ago.
There are three things that grow a sport, and I think this is true on every sport, on every level. It is stars, it is rivalries, and it is games that matter. Those three, that's the sauce. That's the secret sauce. It's the stars, it's the rivalries, it's games that matter. You put that together in any sport, we are watching.
I do think there's one other little element, and I know you agree with me. ESPN also, when they cut their deal, when they got rid of hockey fell off.
But they have hockey back.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying there was a 20-year drought in hockey, and that's because ESPN didn't cover them. I think you do have to have a relationship with the mothership.
Well,
and WNBA does, so that's good.
Yeah, but I think that TNT's relationship with the NBA has been very good. So I don't think you necessarily need ESPN.
But ESPN not getting the NBA right has definitely hurt the ratings. I mean, their studio shows have never been good. You don't think? I think ESPN needs to be on board, and I think they are with women's basketball.
Well, they definitely are. I mean, they've shown. I think that there's gonna be a commitment here.
And the coming together of Caitlin Clark and her interest coming to the WNBA is coming at a perfect time because you're talking about a league that has seen growth and record-setting ratings, viewership, attendance numbers, all were up last season. So in terms of whether or not Caitlin Clark can really bring that to the college game, this is really the biggest test and the best opportunity. It feels like really kind of like a once-in-a-lifetime moment because the WNBA hasn't been this hot in 20 years before anything involving Caitlin Clark. Just what we saw last season in terms of the interest. So if it doesn't happen now, I don't know when it happens.
It's a good point. I think they're ready for the moment. You know, when Diana Taurasi came out in, what was that, 2004? Or thereabouts,
around there,
2005.
That was 2005 already? Wow.
I think so.
I mean, she's 41, so yeah.
Wow.
I think we graduated college the same age, she and I.
Oh, that makes sense then.
A few more accomplishments on Diana's side of the ledger. But, I think that, I don't know if they were ready for the moment then. And I think they are now, or we'll see. That's for sure. 855-212-4227. Kevin is in Oregon. Good morning, Kev.
Good morning. How you doing? Hey, Maggie, I agree with everything you said, the 3 points that are going to create more popularity. But those 3 points, all those things happen as a result of the media pushing either rivalries or great stories. When I was a kid growing up in Northern California, in the 60s, Willie Mays had to get a job in the off-season because he couldn't afford his lifestyle just on his baseball salary. Now, the reason things changed was because more games got on TV, and these rivalries and great stories became more apparent to the entire audience.
Yeah, Kevin, I mean, just having more, it's a great analogy because even having more WNBA games on TV is going to increase the eyeballs of the sport. And I think the attention is there. Like the WNBA has people's attention right now. I mean, Caitlin's debut is going to be massive.
Yeah, that'll be the biggest game ever.
What happens, a month into the season and then 2 months into the season? Do they retain the eyeballs?
Do you think they ever move to the fall?
Why would you want to compete with the NFL and college football?
Just because everyone's in front of their TV. I just think, June, would you think about the networks? They always put like some weird game show or some odd reality show and they take all the main shows off because they know no one's home watching television.
Yeah, I think there's a live sports element to this where you have to be there to watch it live. That could help. And I'd be honest, and we love baseball here on the show, but baseball's audience is really fractured. That's like generally the summer sport. And the audience is fractured. You really only follow your team. So
Right.
I'd rather compete with baseball than compete against college football, the NFL, and I guess baseball playoffs. But I'd rather compete with just the dog days of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, I'm not sure I totally agree with that because you'll be on ESPN to watch college football and you'll see a WNBA ad. In June, you're not going to be on ESPN. I mean, honestly, I just picture July, like, go outside. Don't watch sports on TV.
Well, I don't know. I mean, you go outside. Yeah, I know people are on vacations and stuff like that, but I still think they're going to do okay with this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think ratings would be higher in non-summer months.
I always think it's stupid when people take on the NFL. I think it's so dumb because the NFL, I think the NBA shouldn't start until New Year's or Christmas or whatever. Why even... I hate to seed the ground, but the NFL just takes up so much oxygen.
Well, WNBA could go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday games on ESPN. I mean, obviously there's some NBA games in there. I just think that all the eyeballs are on TV. Everyone gets home and is watching games. I think NFL lifts all boats, maybe. I don't know. Yeah. It's not like, you're not going to choose between the Dolphins and the Patriots game versus a WNBA game. But I think off nights, there's plenty of room. I'm just telling you, there's something weird about summer. It just doesn't do it for me. Feel like my sports calendar, it's like is so used to really engaging in different seasons, not July. I mean, you got to admit, like, that is not a sign of strength that July 12th, you're going to sit and watch a WNBA game at night. I can't see that.
855-212-4227. That's the number to call. Get involved with the show, talking about CaitlinClark and the WNBA, all eyes on it this season. We had a soundbite from Caitlin, right? Did we play that? She's talking about she's not feeling the pressure, or she is feeling she talks about the pressure. There we go. Is she feeling it? Is she not feeling the pressure to raise up the entire WNBA? Here she was on Pat McAfee.
There's going to be learning curves for me. I'm not going to come out here and score 40 points a game. Like, that's not what I'm going to do. I think it's just, learning from the amazing people that I have around me and having a lot of fun, but also, like, don't lose who I am. Like, that's what's got me to this point. Continue to be myself, and I think a lot of good will come from that.
Yeah, that was her at the press conference. I think this is this is a lot of pressure, don't get me wrong, but at least she gets to share some of the pressure with some of the other players in the league. I think this is as relaxed as she's ever seemed because...
She always seems relaxed to me.
Yeah,
like, it doesn't feel like she's ever shown any signs of pressure, no matter what the stage.
Sometimes on the court, but I think...
You think?
Yeah, her dad basically telling her to calm down and shut up in the middle of a game. That happened in Iowa. I think she seems a lot like, all right, I'm part of this, but I don't know if she feels like she has to carry the whole burden of the league.
Yeah, it's interesting. You're right. She does look super relaxed right now, but I feel like she said something about how in the end of games, she just is not bothered at all. Yeah. Actually, she said any stage does not bother me. She's a bit of a unicorn.
Yeah.
She's one of those people. Confident people. I hate them.
She talks, I love how she talks so openly about how good she is. That's something that's not... I know it's like maybe a given for athletes. That's tough sometimes for women to put it out there. I'm really good at this. This is how I got so good. I deserve this. I earned this. I should have all these great things coming to me. That can be tough sometimes for women to talk about. 855-212-4227. Coming up, a ban for life. Who got it yesterday and what does it mean? We get to that next.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. 4 minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. .45 seconds remaining. .30 seconds remaining. .15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Maggie and Perloff show. You know, there is one phrase you don't want to hear as an athlete, Maggie.
What's up?
Banned for life. That's definitely...
Is that bad?
But the funny thing is, banned for life doesn't always mean banned for life. Because I feel like Ricky Williams was banned for life from the NFL and came back like 2 years later. But Jontay Porter, the Toronto Raptors player, who's been caught up in this betting scandal that has been a big story the last couple of weeks. Yesterday, the NBA came out with more details and the official banning for life, which I think a lot of us saw coming, and this guy's really banned for life. If this guy ever steps on an NBA court again, I think everybody is going to be shocked.
Yeah, he's not coming back from this one. This was a real triple threat. He bet on NBA games. He passed sensitive information on to gamblers so they could bet on NBA games. And he took himself out of 2 games to manipulate prop bets that were placed on him. So that's a real trifecta. You are not getting out of that one. And I don't mean to laugh about it. It's serious. I mean, he was betting millions of dollars. He was also day trading on the side. So I guess this is like this sort of risky investment kind of thing was clearly part of his lifestyle. Not just basketball. He was betting millions of dollars on other sports as well. I mean, this dude kind of had it coming.
Here's the thing. I think this is good for the NBA. This is a good sign.
What's up?
Because I read some stuff about how they caught him, and I guess FanDuel and DraftKings and all the casinos books have this incredible software that they can any anomaly in betting, they know immediately. Yep. So if this was all underground and there was no FanDuel, would we know that Jontay Porter was possibly throwing games? And when you think about it, go back to the official Tim Donaghy, how many times has this happened in the past that they have no idea about? So I think the NBA having above board betting is probably a good thing. I know that sounds weird because look what happened with Ipe and Shohei Ohtani. He lost $4.5 million. And who knows what that bookie was doing. It was crazy, the amount of money he was moving. No taxes paid, I might add, which annoys me. But regardless, I think that this sort of legalized betting is going to help catch guys in the future. And it's certain enough guys get caught that it's going to scare the heck out of young athletes.
Yeah, that's what they'll tell you for sure. This is the integrity tax that they have on top of it and all the safeguards and watchdogs so that people can still believe the sports is happening on the level, which is obviously the only thing that matters. Here's my question. We know what the punishment is for murder. And we know what the punishment is for drug dealing, and we know what the punishment is for crimes. And yet crimes are committed all the time. The lifetime ban for Jontay Porter was a no-brainer. You had to do this. It was an easy move, actually, for Adam Silver because you push it on this one guy and you say he's a bad actor and we're just going to get him out. To think that we're not going to have these kinds of things pop up again and again and again because, first of all, I think there's a compulsion part of it. There's an addiction part of it. There's bad actors who get involved with this and the ease by which you can bet now. It's the perfect storm. So you could look at it, I guess, as a positive that they caught him so quickly. But I also think get ready because these scandals are going to happen more and more and more.
Yeah, but that's because they're catching them. So say that would take murder, for example. What if you could get away with murder because nobody had any idea who was living or dying? That's what it was like before.
Yeah.
I think people would have murdered at will if it was off book. If it was I just think be able to catch. I think it's important, and it's one of these things. Like, yes, the NBA would rather not catch people, but the fact that they have the ability to catch people might help because otherwise, I mean, when you look back at the history of the league, we've all seen funny games.
Yeah.
Who knows what was going on? I mean, this is a league that was able to sweep Tim Donaghy under the rug. I just think that it's actually, I'd rather have the model where they're catching a lot of people,
right,
which exposes a lot. It's going to make it seem like there's more sports gambling, but I wonder, honestly, like what used to happen.
So when you're actually sitting down and watching a game, though, and I'd be curious for our audience how often this crosses your mind, and the official does make a bad call or something funky does happen. How many times are you like, I see Scott Foster show up at an NBA game. I'm like, this, of course, the guys have certain reputations, and I think people believe there's already other factors at hand.
Right.
But I think the confidence is like it's already waivers.
I think having all the betting above board might give people some more confidence. And honestly, it's a catch-22. If you're the league, do you want to catch a million people doing this, meaning that you're weeding it out, or do you want it to just go away? Would you turn a blind eye? I think they have no choice. They have to really monitor this stuff.
If you want to take the money from the sports books, you've got to play by these types of rules.
I think it's also interesting what happens with the Jaguars FanDuel lawsuit. So the Jaguars are trying to get back the $21 million that their employees stole from them and then bet on FanDuel, and FanDuel won't give it back.
Yep.
So FanDuel and DraftKings and BetMGM and BetRivers, they all have to take some responsibility here. Like they're on the clock too, because if they they have to monitor this closely. They have to catch people too. So they have a big role in this, and they have to work with the leagues.
I don't know how anyone could think they're going to get the money back from FanDuel. Like if you go,
FanDuel screwed up.
No, but if you say if I steal money from you and I go buy a Rolex watch with it, that's Rolex's fault?
Well, yeah, but you don't go back and buy 25 more Rolexes.
Well, let's say I did.
Well, who are you buying from?
let's say I go to the Rolex store and I'm buying Rolexes with your say it's an Ipe Shohei thing and I have access to your bank account and I'm just draining you and I'm buying all these luxury goods. So Rolex and Hermes and all the things, they're now they should have to give back the money because they didn't question where it came from.
If you walked into a Lamborghini dealership and offered them a suitcase full of cash for a car, yes, they have a responsibility not to take your suitcase.
Oh, is that true?
For
yes.
who? By whom?
Because obviously, I'm saying if you come in with $100,000 of cash, don't you have to ask a million questions? Where did this cash come from? I just think
No.
I don't think so.
Nope.
You guys know anything about money laundering? You can't just walk in with gigantic. Yeah, they do. They definitely have to like track that, like big items. You can't just all of a sudden go and buy a Lamborghini with cash and no one's going to ask any questions.
But right, they have to
That's like
submit,
obviously a drug deal.
But they have to. Well, I mean, you have to submit like paperwork for taxes and all that kind of stuff. But why do they have to vet who's bringing the money in?
Because first of all, that is very suspicious. If you're saying a Lamborghini dealership, a guy walks in with a suitcase full of money and it's just cash, which is weird. You're not going to ask a million questions where that money comes from.
I mean, I want to make sure the
weird.
cash is real.
Right. You just count the money and be like, well, we got the money.
Yeah, I mean, after I know that if I know that they're all legitimate $100 bills, I don't want. Yeah. That's the end for me.
Yeah, what's the liability for Lamborghini for taking the money?
Like I could understand if maybe
They'd be
there was
called
like
money launderers.
if there was like a bank robbery that happened like down the street,
or he's
and,
got like white stuff on his face as he's walking in.
Does this guy match the description of somebody who just robbed a Brinks truck? Maybe,
they'd be heavily accused of helping to launder this money. I'm sure they would know
But
the
if
police are coming.
but if they got a car from it and it was of price, what difference does it make?
Isn't the person who tried to buy the Lamborghini the person at fault, not the person who sold them the Lamborghini?
I think everyone watches for money laundering. That would be a classic case of money laundering. I'm sure Lamborghini in this situation would immediately call the feds and say, "Hey, this guy just walked in with $300,000 cash. What's going on here?"
And then I could probably sue them for libel, accusing me of money laundering for no reason whatsoever.
What are you talking about? It's a $300,000. Who carries around $300 of cash?
Well, here's the question.
Maybe I do.
Why?
Because maybe I want to pay cash, not pay $500 a month on a car payment.
Why aren't you writing a check?
What's the difference between money and a check? Dollars and a check, it's the same thing.
No. A check is traceable. You guys got to watch Narcos. Cash is moving cash is a gigantic problem.
But I could write you a check from my bank,
right?
That is full of stolen money.
That's fine because that's traceable. And if you're a drug dealer, you're not writing checks. They don't write checks. They carry cash around.
Also, I mean, investing in cars is a really bad idea because it loses value the moment you drive it off the lot, and everybody knows that. You got to buy laundromats.
So everyone with cash is a drug dealer, is what you're saying,
basically.
Okay, so that's not true.
Well,
unless you're a famous person.
Oh, listen. Obviously, industries have a cash sensitivity. I mean, you'd be so naive to say anybody who's carrying $1 million of cash. Yes, that's a gigantic problem for whoever takes that money.
Well, I asked you then about the Rolexes, and maybe not against the Lamborghinis, but say that I walked in and I wanted to buy a Rolex. Is it Rolex's responsibility to ask me where the money's coming from?
FanDuel, it's not a fair analogy because FanDuel monitors how much everybody can bet.
Yeah,
they want to know
you are trackable. You have to give them your social security number.
Yeah, and they also set limits on, and I don't know if they ask your salary at some point, but they are investigating. They won't you can't walk in off the streets and make a $5 million bet. They'd be like, well, this is weird. So they want to know who you are. I was reading about Jontay Porter. He had a huge, a VIP account. They know who you are. They're not just taking a random. You can't just walk into a casino and be like, I'm going to put $5 million on this Temple St. Joe's game.
Right. So my questions are about my ignorance of this. And you see,
cash is definitely an issue.
I understand, but what is FanDuel doing to vet somebody? What do they have access to when I sign up for a FanDuel account? How are they? I don't give them a W-2.
You do give your social security number, and you can't bet any beyond your means, right?
Right.
So you have to have.
You have to have the cash in your bank account.
Right. So as long as they see that I have the cash, how are they finding out where that cash came from? They don't have subpoena power. They can't go through all this stuff.
But they definitely they're getting into you. They're not blind about, they might say, well, why does this guy have $20 million in the bank? I think they do look at that kind of stuff.
What can they do to find that? It's one thing to go, that's a weird amount of money. Who's this guy?
You don't think they ask questions? You just think that they look at the final number?
I'm literally asking you because you're talking like you know.
I don't know the answer.
For more information.
Well, I read about the Jaguars. The Jaguars are legitimately going to court saying you should have known that money was was funny, and you should give it back to us. I'm with the Jaguars. I'm claiming Wake FanDuel. What did you do here?
But and I want to know why FanDuel should have to investigate how somebody got their money.
Well, because FanDuel does that. I mean, they just look into the people who are spending money. They have information coming at them, and they should be able to flag something that looks weird. Shouldn't they?
But here's my question. Did this guy actually look weird? Because he's got a company credit card that he was using. This is the Jaguars employee who's going to jail for a long, long time because he was using the Jags money to fund FanDuel accounts, private jets, luxury items, all that stuff. This guy really went for it. But if I look up and I say, this guy's a high-level executive at the Jacksonville Jaguars with a company credit card.
Certainly not a high level. He was a mid-level to entry level.
Well, but again, how do they actually know that? Well, I don't know if they're going to have your salary information. They're going to see you have a title with a major team.
Right. And because I know that if you have to take bets for all these companies, they have to report this stuff to the leagues. Like, I know that is their responsibility as part of arrangements and whatever. Like, they have to flag Jontay Porter because they know Jontay Porter is in the NBA-ish and he's betting on basketball. Like, that makes sense. I still am just wondering what they do as common practice and what they're allowed to do with somebody just showing up with money.
I've got some information from our very own Andrew Kaplan.
Love it.
Please.
Who's doing the work here, doing the research. He says you can't pay in cash for a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
He also says once the dealership receives cash exceeding $10,000, a Form 8300 must be filed. So many tax implications when paying in cash. And someone here said, Kevin said, this is what Floyd Mayweather does. He goes to a car dealership with cash. I think that's part of it. We see famous people maybe get away with things that we as regular people can't get away with.
Well, that's the other thing, too. There are a lot of laws on big bets, right? After 10, I know because of the Arizona State scandal, after you go over $10,000, you have to file a form, right? So all of a sudden, like your social security number, there's a lot of information changing hands here when you're betting at that level. So I would think, listen, if you're the Jags, would you not ask for that money back? I know they might not win the case, but you might as well try.
Oh, you should try. I don't see the logic in how they, like Maggie said, I don't understand. I don't see how FanDuel is responsible for this.
I see what you're saying. And I wish I had more information to counter, but it does feel like FanDuel decides who can bet. Like, I know, and sometimes the sports better are too good and they kick them out. They say, you can't bet with us anymore. What's our guy, the betting genius who was on during the Super Bowl?
Billy Walters.
Billy Walters. No casino is going to take a bet from him, right? So they decide who gets to bet and who doesn't.
Yeah, but that's based on him beating them.
Yes.
That wasn't we don't know where your money's coming from. We're not taking it.
But they know his betting history. They have an idea of who he is. I mean, they even know, I've read that they know his proxies too. Like if all of a sudden you walk in with Billy Walters, they know the betting pattern so well.
Well, that's why he was betting through Phil Mickelson.
Yeah, that's why he had to bet through
perfect
Phil
cover.
Mickelson. I just think it's not as simple as, let's just hey, I don't know where the money came from. I do think the books have some responsibility.
Dilbo says Allen Iverson had trash cans full of cash all around his house. I don't even know if that's true, but I'd believe it. Bogusch has headlines.
I'm actually going to tell that story at the coffee room later today. Did you know Allen Iverson had trash bags full of cash?
Just in case. Is it the free chicken game or is it the Nick Batum game?
Batum fakes it, dribbles it, shoots a three. It's up and good again. He is going to be remembered for this one. Nico Batum, 6 threes. Sixers by 4.
Tom McGinnis on Sixers Radio. Batum hit 6 threes. He blocked one late to help the Sixers climb out of a 13-point hole to beat the Heat 105-104 and claim the 7th seed in the East, where they will face the Knicks. The Heat, meanwhile, have to go home, play the Bulls tomorrow night to decide the 8th seed, and maybe they will not have Jimmy Butler, who hurt his right knee in the second quarter last night. He did finish the game.
Honestly, I thought the adrenaline would kick back in and I would be able to move, and it just wasn't the case. I wasn't able to do anything on either side of the ball, and I think I hurt us more than I helped us, actually.
Butler will get an MRI today with the team apparently fearing an MCL issue. Those Bulls kept their season alive with a 131-116 rout of the Hawks in Chicago. Kobe White scored a career-high 42. The winner of tomorrow night's game in Miami has to deal with Boston in round 1. The Pelicans and Kings finish the West play-in tomorrow, and New Orleans will not have Zion thanks to that left hamstring injury he suffered in the closing minutes of their loss to the Lakers. They wouldn't have him if they advance. He'll be reevaluated in 2 weeks. And we now know why Jalen Brunson is not an Olympian. He wasn't good enough soon enough. USA Basketball GM Grant Hill says he and his staff had their 12 players in mind for a while, and since all 12 were on board, there was no chance for somebody to play their way onto the roster.
I think that this is going to end up with Jalen Brunson on this roster. I think someone is going to bow out because of injury because everyone's 100 who's like.
I totally agree.
You tell me Kawhi Leonard's actually making it to Paris? I don't think so.
Well, though, there is this thing everybody wants to be in Paris for the shopping and the restaurants that these guys might rally and
there's
show
no
up.
time for NBA players to go to Paris any other time. They've got to go now during the Olympics.
You know how famous people are. A free trip, they'll be all over that. I think that Paris is going to keep this roster intact.
You think Kawhi Leonard's shopping in Paris?
Oh, yeah. We're taking that him and Jack Harlow going to New Balance stores.
Yeah, the New Balance stuff, they're going to make him make appearances. He's doing everything as soon as he gets there. That's why he's there.
And maybe, Jay, he's there, like I thought this yesterday, he's going to end up not playing, possibly because of his knee, but now he's on the team. And he gets, I'm hurt, and then Jalen or somebody else gets on it, as opposed to leaving him off because he might get, because he's injured. Now he's on. He's made the team. And if he doesn't play because of his knee, it's a little bit less of it's still on the resume that he was there. Even if he didn't
does help him for sure. That he was a Team USA member. I just wonder if we talk about Isaiah Thomas not making the dream team and how that doesn't age well, or Christian Laettner being on the dream team and how that doesn't age well. Like, I just wonder, and I'm not here to just put Brunson on some crazy pedestal. I'm glad to do that, but I'm not here to do that today. I do wonder, like, how will this decision age? Like, they put Halliburton, they put Edwards, guys are very young players ahead of him. I wonder in 5 years if Brunson's going to be an MVP candidate every year. And I don't know if that's his trajectory.
No, I
think that's the case.
I think it's
in 5
the flip
years,
side.
It's going to look bad.
It's the flip side. It's going with an old roster is going to look worse. It's not going to be remembered for the Jalen Brunson snub. It's going to be remembered for why did you have LeBron, KD, Kawhi Leonard,
AD and Embiid are injury prone.
Yeah, like it's going to be like, why did you think you were going to make it to the finish line with this roster who's so old?
Yeah. But do you think people kind of ignore the fine print of things? Like, we all see the big name, which is why I think there's a lot of excitement around this team. I think some of the snubs have kind of gone a little bit under the radar, except for Knicks fans crying, and I'm one of them, because of the big names. You can say, well, how can you deny having Steph Curry and LeBron playing together? I wonder, you could be right, especially if they struggle, but I do wonder if in 10 years we say, well, what could they have done? They put LeBron James on the team.
Yeah, right.
Who can complain?
He's 40, but sure.
Right.
Interesting.
The Chargers are signing their second former Ravens running back this offseason, J.K. Dobbins, joining Gus Edwards in L.A. Former Ravens OC Greg Roman is there as well in this weird Harbaugh nepotism cycle between the Ravens, the Chargers, and Michigan football. And the Maple Leafs and Lightning finished their regular seasons with a 6-4 Tampa Bay win last night. Lightning winger Nikita Kucherov did become the fifth player ever, the second one this week, to record a 100-assist season, but Austin Matthews failed to score his 70th goal. Guys, back to you.
Can I ask y'all a question about the Harbaugh thing?
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it now. Do you think that you would be your brother or sister's friends? Like, would you want them around? Like, I love my brothers, and everybody knows I'm super close to my brothers. I don't know if just, like, my brother's homies are the guys I want to hire or the guys I want to hang around. Like, this is a little odd, no?
The Jim Harbaugh, John Harbaugh, how they kind of pass guys back and forth between each other. Coaches, that is. I mean, I think when your dad's a coach too, he probably tells you like a certain type of way that you're going to be coaching. And everyone, if you can play for one Harbaugh, I think you can play for any Harbaugh. So I think they like guys who can fall in line with them.
And they like
speak
knowing
the same language, a little shorthand if you're in that Harbaugh universe.
Definitely.
It's like the fear of the unknown. They know these guys. They know they're going to fit in. They know what they're going to do. They know they're going to listen, whatever it is, instead of hiring somebody new who might not work out.
It just feels like Jim and John are pretty different people, like kind of like my brothers are. And I don't know, like John seems a little more, I don't know, not as intense, clearly.
So maybe Jim sucks. And he's got no friends, so he's got to take John's.
I think it's funny. Like, would you put one of your siblings' friends as like your emergency contact?
Right.
You know, is essentially what you're asking. Like, would I put my hands in my life on my brother's best friend? I think I would. My brother's a little bit older than me, so everyone's a little bit more mature, but not in high school, but now I would.
Man, I don't know about John Harbaugh not being intense. That dude seems pretty intense.
A little high strung.
Yeah, John Harbaugh, they're different intense. They have different styles, but they're besties, which is weird to me. Like, I love my brothers, but I don't hug like they do. John and Jim.
Would you want to do a show or work with any of your siblings' best friends?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%.
I like my brother's friends.
That's so fascinating. And my brothers, all my brother's friends are cool. None of them would be in my friend group.
Really?
If I didn't know,
you guys are all pretty close in age too.
Yeah, my one is 2 years away, and I don't know. So I don't know. I find this weird, but
my husband
maybe
and
I'm
his
off.
brother are 2 years apart, and they share a lot of friends. Like they're friends with some people independently and part of the group. Anyway, thank you, Bogusch. We've got to take a small break. Coming back, scandal at Augusta. I don't know if you guys saw this one. Crazy story coming out of Georgia. We'll get to that. Maggie and Perloff, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break.
Isn't that all just triggered by?
All right, I do not think I have a mention. Okay. How about Perloff? You guys have never watched Narcos? Like that's real life? Yeah, right. The laundromat.
45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back. Not sure if you guys saw this one. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff, by the way. An ex-employee at Augusta National Golf Club has been charged, Perloff, in federal court in Chicago with stealing millions of dollars in Masters tournament memorabilia over a 13-year period and taking it all to where? Florida. A guy about 39 years old, Richard Glebensky of Augusta, was charged with a criminal, obviously charged on Tuesday, transporting stolen goods across state lines. And not exactly sure how the Chicago connection gets in here, but they're saying that between 2009 and 2022, he moved millions of dollars worth of Masters golf tournament merchandise and historical memorabilia taken from Augusta National, transported it to Tampa. They have no idea what he took yet. Like, we're not privy, or they do, but we're not privy as the public to what he actually got. You know, there's very strict rules around the green jackets, of course. You can have your green jacket for a year, and then you have to give it back to the golf course, and they keep it in a special area. So who knows what this could be? They have not made it public yet what he stole.
So is this like, the guy who steals coffee pods from the carrot just slowly over the years and it added up? Like,
just rolls the toilet paper
from
rolls
the toilet paper.
I don't think so.
I remember during the pandemic, it felt like everyone in the country was stealing stuff from their work. And this feels like, what do you take a Tom Watson ball here, you take a 9-iron from Phil from 2008. Like, what was he taking? I'm dying to know here. And
it will come out.
Yeah, I mean, I guess he didn't really try and sell it all then, because it sounds like he still has the merch.
No, I think he was moving it to different auction houses or maybe underground type of auctions. Yeah, and I think he definitely stole millions of dollars worth of memorabilia.
Oh, I thought you said he was moving the memorabilia. Like, moving means selling? I'm stupid. I thought you meant like putting it in a van and moving it from one state to another. I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, he stole it from the club and then took it to a place where I'm presuming he got paid for stealing it.
Yeah. When you said moving the merchandise, I'm an idiot. I thought you meant like getting a U-Haul and putting a bunch of golf clubs in the back and driving across state lines. You meant selling.
Yeah. I think that he literally took the stuff from Augusta. So that's stealing it.
Right. But then how come they don't know what it is then?
No, they just haven't released yet what he stole. There's got to be some kind of inventory.
Okay. Anyway,
This is not making sense to you? Okay.
No, I understand. No, I'm just curious. Like, that's a problem when you steal stuff. How do you sell it, right?
Yeah.
From watching TV, like, I didn't know there were really underground golf memorabilia websites. I bet you that was really challenging for him.
No, I think it's the same way, like, if you steal a priceless work of art, there's going to be, you can't just, like, put that on eBay. That you have to find dedicated buyers and people who want to move this on the black market.
But it does sound like also that he actually carried the stuff from...
Yes.
That's what they're getting him. That's why the feds are involved. So there actually is some moving going on.
Yes, there is actually some moving. I don't know if it was in a U-Haul.
Yeah, and so he sold $13 million. I wonder how much he was profit. Did he get the $13 million yet, or does he still have all this stuff?
Well, considering it took place over the course of years and years, I have to imagine he was getting some money along the way.
But I'll bet you his garage is awesome right now.
It's a special storage unit.
Oh my God! Talk about a man cave. That is the ultimate man cave.
But you can't show it off. Because that's how you get caught.
I don't know. You got it. You tell me there was never a temptation to show his neighbor Bill, hey, come down here. Look what I got. This is the pin from when Tiger won in '98.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to show a neighbor that once in a while?
I guess so, but this is how you end up probably in jail. I always wonder that too about the people who have steal these priceless works of art. Who you telling it to?
That is the most
Are
frustrating
you
thing.
displaying it? Your mansion in Moscow or something?
Oh, I honestly, you have the original Scream. I actually saw a documentary. It's impossible to move. Like, it's hard to steal. It's harder to sell.
Yeah, and very few buyers. Right.
Yeah.
The money that you want to take on the risk of buying something that's so obviously stolen.
That is the theme of the show today. It's a money laundering theme Maggie and Perloff show today. How do you money launder? We are very inexperienced at this.
It turns out you and I would be the two worst criminals on planet Earth.
Terrible.
We picked the right profession. Bank robbery, not in our future. Coming up, it is Thursday, which means we dive into the multiverse. Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. Five seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
This is Maggie and Perloff.
On Thursdays around here, we do something called the Multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. This is where we take a look back through one of sports' great what-ifs.
Exploring sports' biggest what-ifs and could-have-beens. Let's dive into the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff.
All right, Perloff, it's draft season, NFL draft season.
Love it. Best time of year.
So we're going back through some of the great what-ifs with the draft. Last week we did what if Peyton Manning had not been taken number 1 overall by the Indianapolis Colts, and it was actually Ryan Leaf, and Peyton went to San Diego, and we walked through those sliding doors. Today we bring you another one. This was a big rumor that was around in 2018, and that was the Patriots being connected to Lamar Jackson. Now, ironically, the Patriots ended up trading with the Ravens so that the Ravens could come at 32 and get Lamar Jackson. However, there was a lot of smoke that Bill Belichick loved Lamar. They got on very well, multiple meetings and visits. So today's question in the multiverse, so what if or what could have been, what if the Patriots had selected Lamar Jackson in the 2018 NFL draft? You can go first, sir.
I'll tell you one thing. This big Bill Belichick expose on ESPN, we would not have that.
No, we wouldn't.
Because he would be the New England Patriots coach, but way more of this. So Lamar reportedly, Bill Belichick's actually been honest and talked about it. He said he loved, Lamar came to Gillette. They got along great. Bill Belichick has always wanted a mobile quarterback just to see what he could do with it as a moving piece. Love Lamar. They took instead, with the 23rd pick, they took Isaiah Wynn, oft-injured left tackle, and running back Stoney Michel at 31. Oh, Bill, you didn't get the memo. Don't draft running backs in the first round. Michel was fine, but they did not need him at all. I think that's when their draft started going off the rails, especially offensively. The following year, they took N'Keal Harry. If they had Lamar Jackson, he'd sit for a year, then Tom would be gone, and Lamar would lift all boats in New England, and they would still have that great defense, and they would kind of be like Baltimore. They would be a really, really good team. Here's the one twist I have that you'll like. It was August of 2019 when the Dolphins started tampering with Tom Brady. If you had Lamar Jackson and you watched him in practice for a year, probably sit on the bench behind Brady, I think that the Patriots, Brady, and everybody would have been more willing to move on quicker. They would not have kept Brady for that last year in New England. He would have been a Miami Dolphin. And man, the Dolphins are talking Super Bowl too. We might even have a Miami Baltimore AFC title game between Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson, because the timing didn't quite work out for the Dolphins and Brady. But I think if they'd moved on a year earlier, that would have been the spot.
Okay, interesting. This is the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff, a sports what if or what could have been. We're going back through the 2018 draft where the Patriots were enamored with Lamar Jackson, didn't end up taking him. So we're asking what if the Patriots had taken Lamar in that draft. So here's a real life question about that, though.
Yeah, I understand. I know what the question is.
They won the Super Bowl that year. The Patriots win the Super Bowl the same year of the Lamar Jackson draft, right? The 2018 season. you're really moving on from Brady the year after you win the Super Bowl? He was always going to be on the Patriots in 2019, and then he left in 2020 anyway, and that's the year he won with the Bucs. So in real life, you're not actually moving on from Brady after he wins at the 6th Super Bowl?
He won 13-3. They were talking.
Oh my gosh! Now
they
we're
were
talking
definitely
about the score.
He was talking on the yacht in that offseason.
Right, but then you win the Super Bowl. It's like Aaron Rodgers might have thought about
after the Super Bowl.
After the Super Bowl, okay. But they're talking
So they
about.
had already known like the end was nigh. Brady had started his exit process right after that Super Bowl.
Okay, but he was never gonna. There was no chance he wasn't gonna be the quarterback of the Patriots the year after they won their 6th Super Bowl. That in real life, that's not gonna happen.
But
like
he was already talking to other teams that
but
offseason.
for the future.
So you're saying he had to take that 1 year, but he was not into that year. He didn't want to be there. He didn't want that team. He knew the team was terrible.
Okay, but he's still going to play for the Patriots that year.
I think they could have moved on. It's kind of like Trent Dilfer in Baltimore.
Okay, well, a little different, but I think you're talking about like Aaron Rodgers, right? He might have wanted to leave leave Green Bay, but then he won back-to-back MVPs, and that's going to keep you, or not back-to-back. He won 2 more MVPs. And that's going to keep you around just a little bit longer because there's a real life component of this. If Brady wins the Super Bowl in 2018, I don't think he's leaving the next year, even if Lamar Jackson is sitting behind him.
As I understand it, the marriage had fallen apart based on the documentary. Even after that, they were already at each other's throats by that 18 Super Bowl, Brady and Belichick. Kinda. I mean, they beat the Rams 13-3.
I know. I love how you go back over this.
That is a soft Super Bowl.
Well,
no,
I know the Saints fans will agree with you on that one, but again, they did win. It was a low-scoring game, but I don't know what that has to do with it.
But I remember in the doc, the Patriot Way, like things were really crumbling between Belichick and Brady by that point.
Right,
so,
which is amazing. They were able to keep winning despite the bad marriage.
But the 19-year was bad from the start. They knew it wasn't going to work. Brady did not want. It felt like Brady was miserable. His receivers were terrible. Everybody was either old or hurt. So, okay. Yeah, but they definitely, well, here's the other thing, too. They wanted to draft a quarterback. They were looking at a quarterback that year. So they were very interested in Lamar Jackson. They were looking for Brady's replacement.
Yeah, ultimately. But what did they do? So, yes.
Yeah, but I mean, like, listen, they were pretty serious. I'll bet you if they could do it again, he 100% would have drafted Lamar.
Of course, now, everyone should, if they could do it again, have drafted Lamar. But so we're doing the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. It's a what if or what could have been of sports. We're talking about what if the Patriots had drafted Lamar Jackson in 2018.
So, yeah, but my point is, like, they wanted to move on. It was, if they had drafted him in 2018 before they won that 2018 Super Bowl, they would have been pressured to move him up to the starting lineup, regardless of the Super Bowl win.
Yeah, listen, if they had actually drafted Lamar in 2018, the succession plan is much easier, obviously, right? Because I think Brady still sticks around for the year after they win the Super Bowl 2019, just because that's a real life thing. I don't think you're moving on. And then 2020, he goes to Tampa or Miami or wherever Brady would have eventually gone.
Well, Tampa.
In Tampa, and he wins the Super Bowl there, and Lamar would have stepped in. Here's where I'm not sure it would have been so seamless. You know, Belichick in his, how he's run the offense and the stubbornness about the offense was really one of the things that ushered in Belichick being gone out of New England, wouldn't you say? I mean, the defense.
No, how so?
Because the defense has always been good. He's always had a handle on the defense. That's never really been the problem. It's how he mishandled the drafting of offensive players and how they ran the offense. Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, you know, how Mac Jones never developed. Like, the offense couldn't draft a wide receiver to save his life. The offense is what's taken the ire, really, for Belichick.
But Belichick wants to run, and that's what Baltimore did with Lamar.
Right, but this is what's cut into his legacy probably more than anything, right? Is how bad the Patriots' offense really fell apart, not the defense. I'm not 100% sure, even if Belichick wants to run, that he would have been able to have the right coaching around Lamar Jackson and would have fully tailored the offense around Lamar the way that you need to get the most out of Lamar Jackson. Like, I don't know if Lamar's winning MVPs as the quarterback of the New England Patriots. Why
not? What's it? I think the Patriots and the Ravens are exactly the same. What difference would be? The Ravens never had a top 20 passing offense with Lamar, so the Patriots would have loved that.
No, but they finally had to, the Ravens finally had to put a lot more resources and a lot more, like, the Ravens had trouble drafting the right receivers to pair with Lamar Jackson before Zay Flowers. They've had a lot of busts, like Perriman, guys like that. I don't think that Bill would have been able to nearly put even any good receivers around Lamar Jackson. And on top of that, let's not forget, the Ravens brought in Greg Roman, was the first offensive coordinator. He's a guy who worked with Colin Kaepernick.
Yeah.
He worked with Josh Allen. He's worked with running QBs. I don't know if Belichick was ever going to bring in somebody who specifically could have gotten the most out of running quarterbacks. Josh McDaniels, Bill O'Brien, I don't know if they were doing that.
Well, McDaniels had a good year with Tebow. But I think that Belichick he talked about it. He wanted a mobile quarterback. I think he could do whatever Greg Roman could do. He's Bill Belichick.
Could he? I mean, his offense was awful the last couple years. It's not a snap your fingers Belichick can run a good offense. Again, we're talking about the multiverse of Maggie and Perloff.
Lamar drops back, the rush over pursues, and he takes off for 20 yards. What coaching?
Okay, then why haven't the Ravens won 4 Super Bowls in a row?
Well, they go 15-1, and he won an MVP in his second year. I mean, I think that Belichick could definitely do that.
Yeah, but see, I'm not so sure.
What did the Ravens do by design? Like Greg Roman has got no ingenuity to me. I don't think like Greg Roman it's credit for this. It wasn't like by design that they couldn't pass the ball. They basically they were a strong defense, strong running game.
I know, but also there was the lack of personnel where you saw even this year with Zay Flowers. You saw how that much they opened up the offense because they finally had people to actually catch the ball.
Right, but they've been
Belichick has nobody. He and the wide receivers have been terrible for him.
The Ravens wide receivers have been awful until this year.
I know, and they haven't won jack squats.
Yes, they totally have won jack squat. They've been an amazing team. What were they 14-2 or
Lamar's
15?
got a 2-4 playoff record. They haven't won jack.
But I mean, they've been. I think they've won like 90% more games than the Patriots. They definitely won a lot. Lamar was an MVP. That team was great.
Okay,
I know they haven't won in the playoffs, but regardless.
Okay, well, what are we judging this off of?
Well,
this is why Lamar gets criticized.
But I mean, if Belichick could have gotten them to 14-2, that's a huge accomplishment for a team that. What did they go 12-4 in Brady's last year, and then it was 8-8. Like, don't you think that things would feel a lot sunnier if the Patriots had Lamar winning 13, 14 games?
I just am not sure that you're getting that 13, 14 win season because I don't think Belichick gets the benefit of the doubt that he was going to put the right pieces around Lamar and have the right game plan around Lamar to maximize it. The Ravens, you could argue, have they? Like, are you in this to get your quarterback MVPs, or are you in this to win Super Bowls?
Well, I mean, if the Ravens could get Lamar an MVP, I think Bill Belichick's a good enough coach that he could. I think he would have had, obviously, Greg Roman, I don't even know if Roman is a Belichick guy, but it feels like he's part of that whole coaching circle. You're telling me that Belichick couldn't have had as much offensive success as the Ravens. The Ravens didn't do anything right on offense. They never put any good players around Lamar until this year, and they still won 1,000,000 games when he's on the field.
Again, what are they doing in the playoffs? I mean...
Yeah, maybe there wouldn't be playoff success, but then again, they do have Bill Belichick, who is pretty good in the playoffs, so maybe they do a little better than the Ravens.
855-212-4227. Again, Multiverse of Maggie and Perloff. Today, the question is, it's a sports what if or what could have been. We're asking, how would things have been different if Bill Belichick and the Patriots had drafted Lamar Jackson in 2018? This was a rumor that was out there at the time that Belichick and Lamar had a good relationship and liked each other. Now, granted, the Patriots did trade with the Ravens for that pick. So they gave the Ravens Lamar, essentially. However, sort of reimagining what life could be like with the Patriots. I'll agree with you on this one. Belichick would have already had the record for most wins with Don Shula.
Definitely.
He would have definitely passed that.
Well, 15 is a lot in that time, but yes, probably, yeah.
I mean, he's still employed by the Patriots. I'll give you that. I still think Brady would have won a Super Bowl somewhere else.
Yep.
But I don't think that Belichick would be as, the stock would be, obviously could not have been this low because he would have taken a risk on a totally different style of quarterback. I think people would have given him a lot of credit for that. I just don't know if it actually would have worked, because Belichick has not been good putting other wide receivers, has not been good picking wide receivers. Let's call it what it is. Let's be blunt about it. I mean, his offense is the reason why his stock is so low right now. Part of the reason, his demeanor, wanting full control of a building, and the offense just totally cratered. I mean, they had Mac Jones, who made a Pro Bowl his first year and then completely fell off. So,
well, I mean, listen. This is a one quarterback who does not need good receivers to thrive, because he had terrible. I'm looking at who he had. His first MVP year was Hollywood Brown. He threw mostly to his tight ends of Mark Andrews, Hayden Hurst, and Nick Boyle. Who's that remind you of? Belichick. Then he had Seth Roberts, Miles Boykin. I mean, this was the Ravens had no receivers either and won a ton of games. So I think the match would have been great. I think that's why Belichick probably thought, like John Harbaugh, man, I can win a lot of games with Lamar Jackson. And I think Belichick really people in that building probably wanted him to take Lamar in 2018. I mean, geez, Belichick probably wanted to start Jimmy G at that point.
Well, and Jimmy G was gone at that point.
Yeah,
they already traded him away.
Right, they drafted Jimmy G in the second round. I'm sure that there were people in that Patriots building who really wanted Lamar and move on from Tom.
855-212-4227. How the world would have been different if Lamar Jackson had been drafted by the Patriots in 2018. That's the multiverse question for today. Coming up, we're going to check in on the NFL draft. Dane Brugler, who authors something called The Beast, the most comprehensive draft breakdown I think I've ever seen, Perloff. I mean, you and I worked at Sports Illustrated for a long time. They did a lot of good draft stuff there. This is unlike anything.
Yeah, I mean, Kuiper's guide is famous too. It's kind of like an evolution of that. I think inside the buildings, they probably have even more. Right, but this is as close as you're going to get to what an actual team might know about players.
We will get to that in just a moment. 855-212-4227. It's Maggie and Perloff. Don't move.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. 1 minute remaining. "45 seconds remaining. "30 seconds remaining. "15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Back on Maggie and Perloff. Today's Multiverse. Every Thursday we do a Multiverse. What if the Patriots had drafted Lamar Jackson, either the 23rd pick or the 31st pick in the 2018 draft? They talked to him. They had been sort of sniffing around quarterbacks for a long time. Maybe I believe that they would have had a succession plan. Bill Belichick would still be in New England, winning a lot of games. I don't know if he wins the Super Bowl, but I actually think he has a better chance than Lamar did in Baltimore because he is Bill Belichick. Maggie says you're not quite sure Belichick had it all together offensively.
No, the offense is really where you can start to pick apart Bill Belichick and how the offense went downhill after Tom Brady left and even that last year with Brady in 2019. So I'm not so sure that he all of a sudden is going to be able to, maximize Lamar. So that's our multiverse for today, as Perloff said, our what if and what could have been. Adrian's in Maryland has a thought on this. Good morning, Adrian.
Hey, good morning, guys. Hey, guys. Maggie, I agree with you, partial, and Perloff, I think you're wrong. Lamar Jackson is not a plug-and-play person. Belichick, his scheme is around the team, around the offense. Even Brady, when he first came in, it was around the offense. The quarterback does what he does, but he doesn't lose the games for him. Lamar, his weakest point is throwing the ball. And I think Belichick, where he lost it all is Josh McDaniels. Nobody talks about that. When Mac Jones came in, he was fine with McDaniels. Yeah. When McDaniels left for the Raiders, and there the offense goes. That's when the offense left them. And I got one more thing before I leave. If the Dolphins, the Jets, or the Bills slip up this year and they got to fire their head coach, don't be surprised if Belichick goes there just to stick it to Kraft.
Absolutely.
100%. 100%, Adrian. And even the bad blood. Now, I don't know if I can see Belichick with the Jets. The Jets, that guy hates the Jets. As much as he might want to stick to Kraft, I don't know if he could even hold his nose and go to the Jets because of the bad falling out that they had.
I totally agree with that. Was Woody the owner when that all happened?
No,
or was
that
Leon
was part
Hess?
of it. That was part of it. There was the succession plan. He thought that James Dolan was going to buy the team, and it spooked him. So.
Well, I think Lamar would have been good.
Bill's not stupid.
I think Bill would have loved Lamar. Lamar never throws interceptions. I mean, he did actually throw a bad one in the playoffs, but he's really good at playing a clean game. But that would have been a great fit. Obviously, I mean, that's not a hot take. Lamar Jackson would have been a good quarterback with New England.
Andrew Bogusch has headlines. Good morning.
I'll turn my mic on. That's usually helpful. So Perloff lost his dignity in a bowl of Skyline Chili. Jason Kelce lost his Super Bowl ring in one.
What?
The Kelce brothers did a live version of their podcast recently in Cincinnati. The show included college students looking for socks filled with faux championship memorabilia and one with the actual Super Bowl ring. All of this was in 2 large vats of chili, spaghetti, and cheese.
They could not find it. This is Jets Jake and intern Brandon the next day searching through the chili to try and find the sock that had my Super Bowl ring in it. We have still yet to find it. All of this stuff has been thrown away, so I think we can safely assume that my Super Bowl ring is now in a landfill. someplace in the Cincinnati tri-state area.
Apparently, Jason has been good at misplacing this ring after he won it a couple of years ago, but it's always been found. This time, though, as he said, it's probably gone for good. They have put in an insurance claim, but he's not sure it'll get paid out since this was all completely avoidable.
Good. I hope it's sitting in a landfill.
Yeah.
Wait, totally. So this thing is, what are they doing? They're doing some kind of live show?
They did. I think that's why there are pictures of them and Joe Burrow at a college bar last week. Travis got his diploma recently from Cincinnati, so they were all there for that.
I feel like the Kelces can't fart without me knowing about it. So the fact that this never got to my timeline, I find it very odd.
You didn't see them? You didn't see him chugging a beer on stage in his cap and gown, Travis?
I saw way too much of it.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that was a live show. I thought that was some kind of graduation.
Right. I think that this all happened last week while they were in Cincinnati for the graduation. Burrow was hanging out with them. They did the thing. That's where Burrow made a comment about winning the next Super Bowl. He said Josh Allen's going to be the next guy to win us his first Super Bowl. All this happened last week in Cincinnati.
Brady said that. Joe Burrow said that?
And I think he responded to Brady talking about it.
Oh, okay.
Because there was a clip we were looking for, because they haven't released the audio. We're way in the weeds here.
Okay, sorry.
It was
and that's my
busy
fault.
week in Cincinnati for them. All these things happened there.
And he lost his Super Bowl ring in two vats of chili. And also, who are the people who are searching for the ring and didn't get it? I mean, you got to go all out if you're selected to participate in one of these kind of stunts.
I don't think insurance should cover this.
No,
they shouldn't.
This is ridiculous.
Well, these losers love themselves, so I wouldn't put it past them.
So glad Pete's back today.
I wouldn't put it past them to plant a fake ring there to get the attention on themselves. Oh, hey, look, I lost my ring. Oh, where is it now? Where did it go?
Yeah.
Meanwhile, sitting in a case at home.
Yeah, I think he'd pay $125,000 to get this story out there. Yeah, I think Kelce would. And by the way, did you also? Travis Kelce pulled out of Barstool's Beer Olympics. It was like a huge headline all over the place. Like they're in the muck. They are drinking beer. They are doing chili things. Everything is going on.
Pete, you might have a future in like political ops. That was pretty good.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
They might need you for this election. Either side.
I feel he nailed that.
You got to give me a big check for this election.
Pete, I would take any check based on your complaints about here. It sounds like any check would be good.
That's true.
Yeah.
Money, sign me up.
I wouldn't have a high price tag.
Pete Bellotti, we already said earlier this morning he looks like he could be a cult leader. Could he also be some kind of like Democratic operative, Republican operative?
Republican.
Either way.
Thank you.
I think maybe leaning more towards the right. Okay, whatever it is, that's fine. They probably pay better.
Yeah, well.
I can see you just in the background, like just pulling strings.
Less taxes and all.
Little evil. I like it.
Pete next to Roger Stone.
No Super Bowl rings will be lost under people.
I will say this.
Or one.
For any party, I think I'd be a very valuable asset.
All of a sudden, Pete's wearing a fedora. He's got like a little mustache. Just however shady people look.
He's like trench coat. The collar is up.
Passing envelopes to people.
I'd be a good vetter. I'd be a good vetter for any party.
Wow. What do you have on us, Pete?
You're right.
I have stuff.
Your cynicism, like you thinking that Jason Kelce's doing this for publicity, that's a good place to start in that job.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious who unless he's really stupid, which is possible, to put your Super Bowl ring in a vat of chili. I mean, that's insulting to winning the ring, first of all.
Yeah. Well, Pete, it wasn't a sock. It wasn't
sorry.
It's supposed to be safe.
I have to take that back.
Big detail there, executive producer. Thank you.
He actually, I'll take that back. It was actually a very smart move to put it in a sock. The very expensive Super Bowl ring in a sock.
I don't know. Maybe I've just like seen one too many like teen comedies, but I feel like other things going in socks are not that.
So gross.
I'm sorry.
Back to sports. The Bulls hosted the Hawks last night to finish the first round of the play-in tourney. The Bulls running away with a 131-116 win with Kobe White dropping a career-high 42. Chicago moves on to Miami while Trae Young and Atlanta go home.
Just didn't come out and make enough plays, and I mean that's just part of it. They were making a lot of plays. Kobe got going. I mean, Vucevic was playing really well. Everybody really played really well. So you got to tip their hats to them, but yeah, it's tough.
So the Bulls win, and they advance to take on the Heat in Miami tomorrow night to decide the 8th seed. The Heat go home after losing in Philadelphia 105-104. Plus, they lost Jimmy Butler maybe to a right knee injury. He finished the game last night, gets an MRI today with his MCL, the apparent concern. Guys, back to you.
Bogusch, thank you so much. We turn our attention to the upcoming NFL draft, and for that, we go to the Athletics NFL draft expert, Dane Brugler. He's got this thing, Perloff. I know you're a big fan of it. So am I. It's called The Beast. It is the most comprehensive draft scouting report I've ever seen in my entire life. And Dane joins us now. Dane, thanks so much for, first of all the hard work. Everything we learn from the Beast is amazing. So thanks for the time.
No, thank you. Good morning, guys.
Okay, first let's start here so people have a little understanding of what we're talking about. The amount of small tidbits, along with the big stuff, like the big scouting stuff, we're going to talk about all these quarterbacks, but can you just start us off with what's the most interesting or fun tidbit you felt like you unearthed about one of these prospects?
There's so many. And that's my favorite thing of the draft process is learning the journey that all these guys go through. No two journeys are the same. When they started playing football, what was their upbringing like? What other sports did they play? All these little details, I think, if you want to know where a player is going, you need to know where he came from. And just it helps to fill in all the gaps. So, there's so many in here. Caleb Williams, his nickname was Bobby Boucher after Adam Sandler's Waterboy character, because he was a linebacker growing up before he's made that switch over to quarterback. And so when you watch him run the football, you can see that running back, linebacker background, that mentality that he has. So that's always interesting. And there's so many just inspiring stories. Ray Davis at Kentucky, the hand that he was dealt and to overcome as much as he did, becoming the first player in college football history. We think it's a hard stat to look up, but he led 3 different FBS teams in rushing over his career. Quantez Stiggers from the CFL, Toronto Argonauts. He's going to be drafted as a non-combine guy. He had so many doors closed in his face, but for him to overcome what he did. So a lot of fun stories in here, a lot of fun tidbits that I think people really enjoy.
So Caleb Williams had to answer a question. Actually, it was on social media where someone came out and criticized him, said he didn't go through adversity, and he listed some adversity he had. You dive into that. I think you talked about the stories. All the great quarterbacks have a backstory of adversity. Do you think Caleb Williams really has that, or is he sort of just coasted on being the best player around?
No, I think it's silly because I think he has overcome. Now, maybe not compared to some others. There's different, varying degrees of adversity that people have to go through. But I think it's funny that a lot of people will criticize him for the crying in the stands, but then also criticize him for not going through adversity. Like, we can't have it both ways. If he was this upset that he lost that game, that he's in tears, that tells me that he cares, that he really wanted to win that game, and the fact that he couldn't pull it off at the end mattered that much to him, that he was that physically emotional. That's he's going through stuff that's overcoming, working past that. So I know this season did not go as planned for USC, going 7-5. And you look at what the offense did, and okay, the offense put them in position to win, and you look at the defense. And over the 2 years at USC, the Trojans defense gave up at least 34 points in all 8 losses that they had. The defense averaged giving up 43 points per game. So, I think when you look at that USC team, it was obviously offensive heavy. And that's tough on a quarterback when you're scoring all these points and you're doing everything you can to win, but then you're going right back out there after 10 minutes because, your defense is giving up points. So, growing up, he didn't necessarily grow up with a tough situation, but you win and lose games, and that's a personal battle for a quarterback. So has he overcome as much adversity as other quarterbacks? No, but I think he's overcome enough that I don't think what the NFL throws at him is going to be too much for him to handle.
All right, we're talking to Dane Brugler of The Athletic. Caleb Williams is the best quarterback prospect since?
Yeah, it's always tough to do this because you have to eliminate what we've seen of these guys in the NFL, right? I think just based off prospect grade, the last 6-7 years, Joe Burrow is the best quarterback that I've personally evaluated. After that, I think it's probably Trevor Lawrence. And so I think Caleb is kind of right there on that Trevor Lawrence tier, maybe right below him, as being just the most physically gifted and a player that you're most optimistic about. Because when you draft a quarterback, you're essentially making a bet, saying, okay, he has this, this, and this, and I'm going to bet that that's going to translate, that's going to work out at the next level. And when with Caleb, he has this rare football awareness that really shows whether he's inside the pocket, outside the pocket, the way he can process everything and just make something happen. And so physically, he's not the tallest guy, but he is well built. He's a very good athlete. He has an outstanding arm, both velocity and accuracy, but it's that rare football awareness that I think really stands out as separating him. And, that's an instinct that I think will carry with him to the NFL. And as things get faster, as he has to process things quicker, that's something that I think will serve him well and why I think he's going to have success pretty early. Dane Brugler is joining us. He's the Athletics NFL draft expert. He pours himself into this thing called The Beast, where you can find as much about the, fifth offensive lineman prospect as you can about Caleb Williams. It's really comprehensive. Let's keep it on quarterbacks, though, Dane. And J.J. McCarthy is the guy who's really been, at least on the outside, appears to have done very well in this draft process. Thought it was interesting that you wrote, it feels like his evaluation is incomplete because of how little he was really asked to carry for the Michigan offense. Have you ever had an evaluation like that? And, if so, how did that turn out? Or what do you think teams should take from that? Yeah, it's tough. You look back at Trey Lance coming out of North Dakota State. He had so few pass attempts, and it was all at the FCS level, and obviously that hasn't worked out. But then you go back to last year with Anthony Richardson, who had under 400 pass attempts in his college career, and the early returns with Anthony Richardson are very positive. We're especially Indianapolis fans, they're excited for what their quarterback situation looks moving forward. So with J.J. McCarthy, it's funny because in the summer, if you go back to my top 50 back in August, my first one of the process, he was in the top 20. So based off of what I saw in the summer, I was very excited about what JJ McCarthy could be. And then at some point later in the year, I kind of got passed up by people being maybe a little more optimistic than I was. My evaluation has kind of stayed the same. I see the tools, the intangibles are off the charts. Teams rave about him as a person, the way he carries himself, the type of teammate that he is, the way that he processes information. So I think there's a lot of things that point to him being a good quarterback, but you just wish you saw it more. There's more of a body of work on film. And it was a product of the offense. They built that team to, they're going to rely on the run game. They're going to rely on the trenches. And who are we to argue? They won a national title doing it that way. But when they needed to play, especially on third down, fourth down, you go back to the Rose Bowl against Alabama, that final drive, when they needed to play, J.J. McCarthy stepped up and he made it. He was very good on those money downs. And so the tools, the athletic traits, the passing traits that he has, and then also the person that he is, the intangibles, that's the type of thing that teams are going to latch onto and say, okay, we have to make a bet on this player. We feel comfortable doing that. And it'll be really interesting. Is he going to be the fourth quarterback drafted, or can he sneak into, and convince the Commanders at 2? Can he convince the Patriots at 3? Wow. Or is he going to be that fourth quarterback? I think is the most likely scenario. And who's it going to be? Is it going to be the Vikings trading up? I don't think the Giants are going to trade up. I would be surprised by that. But the Vikings feel like the most likely team to do that. We know they want to draft a quarterback. Just really comes down to their evaluation of J.J. McCarthy.
Dane, so you put out a mock draft this week, and you had Jaden Daniels going number 2 to the Washington Commanders, but you had a note that made me a little nervous because everyone's assuming now, and the Vegas odds are that Jaden will go number 2, but you point out the Commanders are really not letting it out there. Doesn't seem like that it's as done as we think it is. It still is kind of, you painted a picture, it's more up for grabs who they're going to take at number 2.
Well, that's only because all the buzz that we're hearing about Jaden Daniels at 2, that's coming from other teams. That's coming based off of what other teams think the Commanders are going to do. That's not coming from the camp there in Washington. So, we have a brand new regime, right? A new owner who is hands-on. He will have a say in who that pick is going to be. First-year general manager. We have a new head coach, his second go-around as a head coach, but he's a defensive-minded head coach. So he's looking at this maybe through a different lens. He's looking at it from who would I least like to prepare against? Which of these quarterbacks do I not want to see on the other side? So when we have all these different voices, and of course there's other voices involved as well, all these different names, all these different voices and perspectives, it really is interesting. I think with Jaden Daniels, I get it. I mean, Drake May personally is my number 2 quarterback, but I understand it with Jaden Daniels. He accounted for 90 plays of 20-plus yards last year. So if you're looking for someone that's going to create those explosives, Jaden Daniels, it proofs in the pudding. He did it last year at LSU. And to put that number in perspective, Joe Burrow in his magical Heisman's national title-winning season a couple years ago, he had 87 plays of 20-plus yards, and he did it in 15 games. Jaden Daniels had 90 plays of 20-plus yards in 12 games. So it's really impressive what he put on field. Now, did he benefit from an offensive line that didn't really get him touched? Absolutely. Did he benefit from 2 first-round wide receivers plus 2 more that'll be drafted next year? There's no doubt, but the calmness that he played with, the dual threat ability that he brings, and that's people, scouts around the league, they brought up Lamar Jackson when talking about Jaden Daniels, not as an apples-to-apples comp, but as a guy that you have to prepare for in a similar way because he will beat you with his legs if you give him a lane. Wish he take care of his body a little bit more with some of these runs. He doesn't need to prove how tough he is on every single run. But I think if you're looking for an injection of life in your offense, I could certainly understand why you'd come to the conclusion that Jaden Daniels could be that guy.
Dane Brugler joining us for just another minute from The Athletic. He's their draft expert. He's got this comprehensive guide called The Beast, and it really is, but it's also laid out so it's very easy to follow and easy to read. You're not just going to get bombarded with info. They do a very good job, Perloff, and I know you know this, of really laying out what you need to know. Last one for me, and it's about quarterbacks again, and it's about Michael Penix and Bo Nix. Now, your latest mock, you have Penix sneaking into the end of the first round. You have Bo Nix going somewhere in the 50s. How much has Penix separated himself from Nix in this process? Is there a large gap between Penix and Nix?
Well, I think first thing, we have to throw out the word consensus. There's no such thing. All these teams look at these guys differently. And so for some teams, Penix is ahead of Nix. For other teams, Nix is ahead of Penix. And so it really depends on who you talk to. I do think Penix is probably going to be that 5th quarterback drafted, maybe in the late first round. I think if you're going to draft one of these guys in the first round, that's telling me that you think he's going to be a top 12 to 15 quarterback in the NFL. And that's where I have a hard time getting there. I can't quite get there based off of their film and based off of their traits as they go to the next level. But both these guys are going to start in the NFL, and a lot of quarterback desperate teams are out there. And if you're the Broncos, the Raiders, you can't get up there in the top 5 to get one of the top 4 quarterbacks this year. These are your options. You're looking at Spencer Rattler. You're looking at Michael Penix. You're looking at Bo Nix, guys that are talented yet flawed, and you're going to roll the dice and see if you might have something.
I like Penix. Maggie's a little more skeptical after the national title game. Real quick, Marvin Harrison or Malik Neighbors, everyone has a different opinion. For me, watching college football this season, I thought it was a done deal with Marvin Harrison. Any chance that someone goes ahead of him as a wide receiver?
Yeah, there are teams that have Malik Neighbors as wide receiver 1 in this draft. There's no doubt. And again, it goes back to that LSU offense. And if you want explosives, Malik Neighbors had 34 catches of 20-plus yards, more than any other receiver in college football. Led the SEC in catches the last 2 years. So he's young, he's talented, and the production's there. Marvin Harrison, I give him the slight edge because he's so crafty, so savvy. He understands how to play the position. It's not just using his size and athleticism. So that craftiness will translate. I know it will. And so I give him the edge. But both these guys are outstanding. If Malik Neighbors were in last year's draft, he would have been my number 1 overall player. He is that good. So this is a draft where we have 3 potential number 1 receivers with Harrison, Neighbors, and Odunze. Those guys are going to come off the board really quickly.
Dane, thank you so much for joining us and carving out some time. We know it's a really busy time. The Beast is a must read. I would suggest multiple sittings, though. You're not getting through that thing in just one lunch hour. Dane Brugler from The Athletic, thanks so much.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Appreciate that. It's amazing. He's like doing the work that private investigators do. He's got a lot of cool info in there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing. There's definitely, we watch the draft and we'll see a lot of the backstories, but there's a lot going on with these guys, and the teams have a lot more in a way than just looking at game tape. That's why you go in and interview the strength coach, and I don't know how Dane gets this information, but it's awesome.
He's got the stuff. Coming up, we check in on the Dallas Cowboys. Don't move. It's Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Welcome back to the Maggie and Perloff Show. Sorry, just only got sidetracked here. I've done this many times in my life.
You tell me these ridiculous stories right before we're about to go back on air. Let's do the Cowboy stuff, and then let's talk about what you just told me.
Yeah, go ahead. So, what are those silly Cowboys up to now?
Cowboy Quickie music, of course. Here's Stephen Jones, who was on 105.3 The Fan the other day, talking about how the Cowboys, their salary cap is going to be maxed out. They need to save money to re-sign their stars.
And when we're all said and done, we max out our salary cap every year, and we will have done that. And what comes with having a good roster, which we do, and we also are looking towards signing our own guys. It doesn't mean it happens overnight, but when you're wanting to sign players like Dak and Micah and CD, then that certainly you have to hold money back if you want to have a realistic chance at signing those guys.
Right, so that was Stephen Jones kind of defending why they haven't been able to go after high-priced free agents in this cycle because they've got their own guys that they have to re-sign. And you think this makes sense?
Of course. I mean, is anyone saying, the Cowboys are being cheap? Because that would be ridiculous. Obviously, the Cowboys are going to spend up to the cap. They just screwed up their cap situation. So Steve is not lying there. I think anyone who a Cowboy fan is wondering, like, man, why won't my team spend? That is obviously not the case.
No, it's not about being cheap, but you can criticize the Cowboys for mismanaging the situation. Now, they wouldn't be this strapped and they wouldn't have this little margin for error if they had gotten in front of some of these contracts. You get in front of the Dak Prescott contract, that lowers the cap number. You get in front of the CeeDee Lamb contract, that can lower the cap number. The more these quarterbacks and wide receivers and pass rushers, the more of them that sign, the price only goes up and up and up. These are three positions where the price goes up only. It never flattens out. This isn't running backs.
But no other team has figured this out. There's not another team that can have the most expensive quarterback, the most expensive wide receiver, and the most expensive pass rusher. I mean, listen, the Chiefs had to get rid of Tyreek Hill. Packers had to get rid of Devontae Adams, and you can't really pay Nick Bosa and a top-end quarterback.
Well, 49ers got pretty damn close, and they're going to have to pay Brock at some point.
Well, yeah, but I mean, nobody could do this. I don't think the Cowboys are. It's impossible. I mean, look at the wide receiver quarterback combo. That is the story of the NFL right now. If you have an elite quarterback, you can't really have like a top end wide receiver. These receivers have gotten so expensive. So is that really the Cowboys' fault? Is there a way to? I mean, I understand you're right. They should have got out in front of Dak. But I don't think there's an easy solution here.
There's not an easy solution. I mean, I watched the Rams with a very expensive quarterback, a very expensive Aaron Donald, and
They got their whole team, right?
Well, you pay the price at some point. But just because the Cowboys aren't necessarily cheap, and I wouldn't accuse them of that either, doesn't mean you can't be critical of how they approach the offseason. That is your Cowboy Quickie for today.
But what did they do this offseason that was wrong?
They should have signed Dak last year.
Right. How about this offseason?
Well, I would probably, you're going to see more wide receivers sign. I probably want to get the CeeDee Lamb deal done now. If you're not planning to move on from him, don't wait until, you have other guys who are going to go to the market here.
Yeah, I think they probably will get something done.
Don't wait till Justin Jefferson signs. You don't want that.
They probably will get something done with CD. I mean, it's only April. The problem is this Dak money is going to be a huge problem moving forward.
It is.
Because either they let him go and they have no quarterback and there's still a dead cap hit. It's a mess. It's a problem.
Right before, and we'll see if they end up drafting a quarterback in whatever round to try to fix and maybe move on from Dak Prescott.
And they got Trey Lance sitting there. Maybe that's your answer.
Yeah. Right before we go back on the air, Perloff tells me about was this a secret or not a secret? You played, we don't have to say the person, you played somebody who we used to work with one-on-one to 100 to try to settle some sort of beef in the office? I was
exaggerating, but I remember we had this, that it was not 100. I've done games with that. Have you ever done an epic one-on-one? Maybe EJ's done this, where you have a beef with a friend about who's better, and then you're like, let's just play a huge game.
But this was someone you work with. This isn't even a friend.
I've had a lot of shooting contests and games with people I work with. That's nothing.
This seemed like it had a little bit of was there any bad blood there? Something that had to be settled on the basketball court.
Yeah, we were just talking trash, and there was this guy who's a pretty good athlete, but I don't think he played basketball all the time. And he's like, I can beat you in one-on-one. I'm like, you can't. And he couldn't.
Ooh.
Wait, what did you guys end up playing to? Because he has a little bit of an age advantage on you. He's a little bit younger.
No, I mean, this was 2000. This was like 2008. 8 at SI. I was not that old then. That really didn't matter.
If you played at 21, that's when you know it's real. That's a real.
He told me they played
even 21's not enough though. 21's not enough to really determine anything. Like you really got to go. Yeah, I feel like you got to go even further than 21.
What's the next level?
Yeah.
Like 50? I never hear of pickup games.
Me and my friend Fred played this war in college where we did play to 100 and we were both exhausted by the end, but it was like 100 to 94 and he was so mad that I won. But I mean, now I'm not doing one-on-one, but I will do shooting contests. But even that, I don't know. With a knee injury, I haven't been in the lab lately.
I just can't. I know everyone's been wondering when are you going to get back in the lab. I just can't believe this happened. I never even heard about it. I didn't come to SI till after this game took place. But
actually,
it's not even.
It was not a big deal. We never talked about it with anybody. It wasn't like we were all talking about it in the newsroom.
Oh, so this was a secret sort of one-on-one.
No, it was just no. We just went out to shoot one day because we were friends. And we're like, let's just play one-on-one, and it kept going and going. It wasn't like a thing. Like, like the Doug Gottlieb thing at DP show where I was talking to trash to Doug and we had a shooting contest, like stuff like that. I've had some real epic shooting things in the past.
Did you beat Doug?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he can beat me.
And here we go.
I don't think he can do it. I want the smoke.
Wow.
What? From where?
3-point line.
Which 3-point line?
Whatever you want. I can do high school.
Thank God. Because college is like a mile away. NBA is like 2 miles away.
Coming up, the most desperate team in the draft. We've got them.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. Forty-five seconds remaining. Thirty seconds remaining. Fifteen seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
It's Maggie and Perloff on the Infinity Sports Network.
The most desperate team in the 2024 NFL Draft, got to be the Denver Broncos. Hey, welcome to the show. Maggie Gray, Andrew Perloff. Denver Broncos Perloff, who, according to a new report by the Washington Post, and this has been out there a little bit, not only are they desperate to try to get up to the top 3 to get a quarterback, they're willing to throw in Patrick Surtain and Courtland Sutton and basically anyone you want from the Denver Broncos, you can get. You want signed jerseys by John Elway, you can get that. They will give you anything to move up so that they can get a quarterback because, you know, this has been such a botched situation going back to Russell Wilson. And then even before that, the Broncos had so much trouble and have had so much trouble filling this position. You bring in a head coach like Sean Payton, who you trade for and trade valuable assets for. There's no reason to have a coach like that for, no offense, you know, a backup quarterback cosplaying as a starter. You have got to try to get a franchise QB. And this is a bad place for a team to be in. So desperate that you're willing to make some potential bad decisions just to get that quarterback.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think you're thinking of what? What are the bad deals that have been there at 12 going up to, say, 3? Like in the past, that's been an okay formula. I know Trey Lance did not work out for San Francisco, but there's been a lot of trade-ups that have worked out really well. I'm thinking of my Eagles and Carson Wentz. I think... Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have the list in front of me.
Carson Wentz really work out? That's a conversation for another day. But let's
that Super Bowl ring that Jason Kelce lost, that's not there for Carson Wentz. But I think you could look at a lot of the trade ups have worked out great. So I do think that if you look at a draft, you want to be in the top 3. Like, what are the Broncos roster stinks? Like, who cares? Like, they're not winning anything with the guys they have now. You might as well get rid of them and start over at quarterback.
Yeah, but Patrick Surtain is actually part of the solution, not part of the problem. See, when you have to start getting rid of actual productive players, and he's a Pro Bowl level corner and all-pro, because you are so desperate to find a quarterback because you have so botched that part of the roster. I mean, that's not a sign of a good team. This is a team that is spent a lot of money in free agency last year. There's no reason for the roster to be bad. And Sean Payton was in the building for that. So they're like this trifecta of a team that's like up to the cap, major dead cap hit this year because of Russell Wilson, doesn't have like a lot of room, having to potentially part ways with actual good players on your roster, and you're not even get up to the point where you're assured you're going to get the quarterback you want. See, like that's where the 49ers fell into a bad spot, and maybe even, you know, this is where teams can really get in trouble. If you could tell me you could get all the way to number 1 and you would have your pick, whether it was Caleb Williams or whoever, that's one thing. when you have to rely on getting to Commanders are not trading on that. Maybe the Patriots, so maybe you get pick 3, or maybe the Cardinals, where then you're picking quarterback number 4.
Not so much.
Yeah, see, this is where your mismanagement just becomes so desperate. And Sean Payton is a head coach who also has personnel oversight. He's going to want to get something for now. He's not thinking 5 years down the line, right? He's thinking, how do I turn this thing around today?
Yeah, I mean, okay, by the way, can we go back to some of the trades? I have the list now. It's hit or miss, but obviously Patrick Mahomes, the Chiefs traded up to get him. Josh Allen, the Bills traded up to get him.
But not into the top 5. You're giving me trade up, but we're talking about getting up real high. I think you have to make a distinction there.
Okay.
Because the Bills didn't have to give up a Pro Bowl corner. The Chiefs didn't have to give up a Pro Bowl corner. It was just draft capital.
Okay, so you got the similar trades. The Rams trade way up to get Jared Goff.
Yep. How'd that go? I mean,
good. They got the Super Bowl in his 3rd year. You can't argue against that. That turned around a franchise that hadn't won anything, and they immediately started winning.
Yeah, but they basically threw him in as like for a trade to get him the hell out of there.
They re-signed him to $120 million. The Eagles moved up for Wentz. That definitely worked. I think they got to a Super Bowl.
Different quarterback, but sure. And then got him out of there because he was a problem.
But you definitely can't say, you don't think the Broncos would take those situations? They would in a second. Don't you think they would like to go to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, but Carson Wentz didn't get them to the Super Bowl.
I mean, yeah, but they definitely, Nick Foles is a starting quarterback week 1. I mean, Carson was well on his way to being the MVP that year.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand it did work out eventually.
But you're talking about, so what you're telling me, though, is you just gave me 2 examples of guys who are no longer with that team.
Right, but they definitely were successful trades. Like, if Denver can move up to number 3 and get to the Super Bowl in 2026, they'd be stoked, right?
Again, you're going to be trading away other valuable pieces on the team. You're not getting to a Super Bowl. If the roster is that bad, the best quarterback in the world's not going to be able to overcome that. The Rams that were building something with Aaron Donald and others.
Well, here's the other option. Let's talk about Patrick Surtain II. If they keep him and they do not say they had an option to get up number 3 for Drake May or Jaden Daniels, and they said, nah, we're not going to do that. We're going to go with Jarrett Stidham, and then we're going to pay Patrick Surtain $30 million a year to be the top cornerback in the league. What good does that do? You're going to win 5 games at most.
Okay, but that hypothetical doesn't work in this sense because they're not getting up to 2. Like if you were telling me
3.
I don't even think they're getting that high because again, we'll play this out. We're talking about the Broncos, I think are the most desperate team in the draft this year to get a quarterback. And they're going to end up, I think, making some regrettable decisions if they, mortgage the future, so to speak, to get up there because you're getting like the 4th quarterback on the list. You're not even sure what's going to happen with the Patriots and why would the Patriots not take a quarterback? They need one desperately as well.
So that's the question. Would they trade up to 4? I don't think they give up Surtain and a high pick to go from 12 to 4.
Well, again, this is what happens with desperate teams.
If you can get into 3, I don't think it's a done deal that McCarthy will even be there for, by the way. I think if they could get one of the 2 good quarterbacks, Jaden Daniels or Drake May, then I think it's worth it. Because you could have the best cornerback on earth. It doesn't make the slightest difference if you don't have a quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. What's the point? Like, why is Surtain just going to stay there? And I mean, where are you getting your quarterback? Who cares who your cornerback is?
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, secretly, I want the Eagles to get Surtain for the 22nd pick. That would work out great for me.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like they really, really want to pay him what he deserves.
Yeah, I think that the only way that Surtain is even available is if you're trying to get up really, really high. And I guess what I would just point to here is this is what bad teams do, right? Because in theory, you don't want to have to give away good young pieces to have to go get a quarterback. The problem is that they are stuck in this limbo where the coach could not make it work with Russell Wilson. Like Russell Wilson is going to be handed a starting job, we think, with the Pittsburgh Steelers, one of the marquee franchises of in the NFL. I don't know if it's going to work out. Maybe it goes to Justin Fields. But the fact that they could not make that work, an arranged marriage that both parties knew was going to happen and knew what they were walking into, they couldn't make that work. And now the Broncos are a desperate team. And this is the type of team that can get taken advantage of. And I think that's what's going to happen. Now, maybe they're willingly getting taken advantage of, but you're getting taken advantage of to not even get your top pick at quarterback. Ugh. I don't love it if I'm a fan of the Broncos.
I honestly, I'm looking at this roster now. I mean, I honestly don't know. Like, there's not a single player on here that they need. There's not a winning player. You got to start all over. I would. You're so okay. I'm going to be The Patriots, there's rumors that they might trade out.
Yeah.
Okay. So I am George Payton, the GM of the Broncos, and you're the Patriots GM, Elliot Wolf, sort of GM.
Yeah.
I call and say, Elliot, I will give you Patrick Surtain and the number 12 pick, and I'll throw in Cortland Sutton.
Yeah.
Do you do it?
No, because I need the quarterback.
Okay.
And I'm telling myself the lie that all teams tell themselves when they're in the top 3, which is I'm not going to be picking this high again, and I don't have to give up any assets to get anybody. I can just sit there and I can pick the 3rd best quarterback in the league, or in the draft rather. I'm not giving up on that.
Okay, but how about from the Broncos standpoint? Do you like that deal for the Broncos?
Yeah, I guess so. It's painful to watch that kind of talent walk out of the building. Because it's my own fault.
But you're saying it's a bad idea to move up from 12 to 3. I know 4 is bad because you don't like J.J. McCarthy.
Yeah.
But it's a good idea to move from 12 to 3. It's so good, in fact, that the Patriots would be like, nah, we don't even want this. If it was such a good package.
No, because again, maybe I wouldn't, because I don't know, do I like 3 quarterbacks in this draft?
Oh, God.
Well,
are you kidding
you do,
me?
but I don't know if I do. Meanwhile, I'm probably,
who do you not like?
I think that there's holes with all of these guys, except for Caleb. I like Caleb a lot.
Holes in a sense, like every human being has holes, but honestly, there's all these guys would have gone number 1 last year. Jaden Daniels, definitely. Drake May, probably.
Well, the best quarterback didn't go number 1 last year. The best quarterback went number 2. So it's a different calculus. And that I was not big on Bryce, and I was out on an island on that one for a lot of people because I was scared off by his size.
Yeah, but I think that's, honestly, I would do this. I would go from 12 to 3 in a heartbeat in this trade, and I would give up Patrick Surtain because Surtain's going to be a free agent at some point soon. I think he's getting up on his 4th year, and that's a huge investment that they're just not ready to make. They're not a good enough team to invest in Surtain.
But do you think the Broncos have been run well?
No, definitely not. They were. What was their record last year? They've had how many losing seasons in a row? So of course not. But that has nothing to do with what's happening this offseason. Nothing that happened before is the fact that they've been missing all over the place on every different position. None of that impacts what they're going to do with this draft, right? Like, who cares?
Well, instead of mortgaging your future this time and you're, again, not even getting your top choice or your top 2 or your top even 3 choice at quarterback, if you're going to be this bad, why not just be bad next year?
So you're saying just tank?
Well, I'm just saying Because I don't have to give up anything in the future, and if you think the roster sucks anyway, and you're not going to get one of your top picks because you can't get up that high.
Well, but you're not giving up Surtain if you can't get up that high, so the whole conversation is moot. Yeah, I would really try. I would give up a lot to get up that high. I would give up big time to get up to 3 because I don't think their quarterback's going to be there next year.
So what about the idea, because people have talked about this with the Patriots about moving out of 3, where you're basically getting a good quarterback, but you're welcoming into a really bad team.
That's an issue.
And what does that do? Because if I mortgage everything to get up and I get the guy I want and I bring him in and there's nobody around to throw to block for him, there's nobody on the defense, like, what am I doing? I'm basically throwing away the first 2 years of the guy's rookie deal anyway.
Well, you have some old guys, some short-term guys who'll help you there. They're not nearly as bad as the Patriots. But they have guys like Mike McGlinchey, you mentioned that free agent, who they overpaid for last year. They're not building around him, but listen, they're a dream team compared to the Patriots. Look at their receivers. They've Sean Payton as their offensive coordinator. Then they have Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, who's actually promising. Tim Patrick's coming back, and we'll see about Josh Reynolds. Mr.
Jerry
Drop.
Jeudy's gone.
Yeah, that's a good thing. That's definitely an addition by subtraction. They do have Garrett Bowles is still left tackle, but he's old. I was listening. Daniel Jeremiah was talking about them on his conference call. A lot of people think that they need to replace their tackles. So this could be a moot conversation that they take an offensive lineman at 12 and nothing happens. That'd be disappointing. I would go up to 3. I'd give away Surtain, next year's first, and this year's.
855-212-4227, the most desperate team in the draft. I think it's the Broncos. What about you? I don't know if you have a pick for this. Who's the most desperate team?
Desperate. Well, listen, the Patriots are at a bad spot.
Yeah, but they don't have to move.
Oh, the most desperate team? Well, definitely.
Most desperate to move up.
Yeah,
the Vikings definitely are putting themselves up
Minnesota
in
1, Denver 2. I think, and you might even say 1A, 1B. But Minnesota certainly is probably even worse because they're not going to. If they start Sam Darnold, oh God, they have such a good young team around there.
You've been warned.
They need a quarterback to surround all. They have so many things going for them They need a quarterback. I would put them ahead of Denver.
Man, poor Justin Jefferson if he's got to play a season with Sam Darnold.
That's where the pressure comes because he may not sign that contract until they get him a real quarterback.
Gosh, I mean, Darnold, that's not
Darnold
what you want.
Darnold probably put up good numbers there, ironically, like decent numbers. Not like Kirk Cousins numbers, but you got Kevin O'Connell, you got Jordan Addison, you got Justin Jefferson. Just throw the ball up in the air. It's not that hard.
Sam Darnold will make anything look hard. 855-212-4227. Just because we watched him a lot. Coming up, we have more thoughts on CaitlinClark on the verge of signing a massive shoe deal, what she's doing for the WNBA. We've got all of it for you next. Maggie and Perloff, Infinity Sports Network.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. One minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. 45 seconds remaining. Seconds remaining. Seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
I can't believe it, Maggie. I cannot believe the news that has just come down.
Yep.
This is unthinkable. Welcome back to Maggie and Perloff. I thought this person was undestroyable and nothing could take him down come playoff time, but I was wrong.
Yeah, according to Shams Charania, Jimmy Butler is feared to have an MCL injury in his knee. The injury could sideline him for an indefinite period. They're thinking multiple weeks is the expectations. Not sure how he actually played through the last 3 quarters of that game.
Yeah, I mean, Zion couldn't play the last 3 minutes, and Jimmy Butler's out there dunking.
I mean, he was kind of hanging in the corner a little bit, but he came up with some big defensive plays in the fourth quarter.
He definitely came up very short on a lot of shots. He wasn't himself. Well, there goes Heat culture.
Probably. I mean, listen, they might still beat the Bulls. It's a home game.
Yeah.
They might still get in. But again, this is now a matchup with the Boston Celtics. And we started talking about this earlier in the show. The path is not going to get a lot, I'll put air quotes, easier here for Boston than it is right now. I mean, the Miami Heat were the bugaboo for them last year. And now you're going to face them without Jimmy Butler?
So I was watching the spread this morning. Before this news, the Heat were 2.5-point favorites at home against the Bulls. Now it's already down to 1.5. I wonder if it comes down some more. Can I make a total confession that'll make Pete mad?
Yeah. Well, Pete called this earlier in the show.
I thought he was going to come walking on the court like Willis Reed there.
So I am a Sixers fan and a Pistons fan because Pete assigned the Pistons to me.
Correct.
Part of me wanted the Heat to beat the Sixers last night because even worse than watching the Celtics win, watching the Knicks win playoff series is painful for me. And I was very confident that Jimmy Butler and the Heat would beat the Knicks in round one.
Not so confident about your Sixers?
The Sixers are terrible right now. I mean, they are just the fact that they needed Nicholas Batum to come in and save their butt in a play-in game. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? Joel Embiid simply cannot move. He is, as bad as Jimmy Butler is, Joel Embiid's knee is right behind him. He is not healthy. They have no chance in this year's playoffs. Even when Embiid is healthy, they struggle in the postseason. Now they have no chance.
And they also emote tremendous disappointment, the Sixers.
Well, I know, but the injury this year is at least some kind of excuse. My point is, I watched the Heat, but in the first half of that game, I'm like, oh my God, the Heat are back. This team is clearly going to the NBA Finals. And then Jimmy Butler pump fakes. Kelly Oubre lands on him and it's over. Because I think the Heat were still super dangerous. He is the best. He's one of the best playoff players of my lifetime. Jimmy Butler is amazing. He's totally relentless, never gives up, doesn't seem to care about the moment. I can't believe he's gone. It's like the Wicked Witch of the East is dead.
I didn't think you were going there. I did think it was funny last night that Perloff sent this text to our group chat, which was, what a shame Jimmy Butler's hurt, dripping with sarcasm, when your star player is like a hangnail away from missing the rest of the entire play.
Well, that goes back to Jimmy Butler and whatever happened, why he's not a Sixer anymore. There's many versions of that. I think if Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid had teamed up, the Sixers might have won a title because everything that Joel Embiid lacks, Jimmy Butler has. He's so tough, always steps up in the moment, never, ever gets hurt. That's the thing with Jimmy Butler. So that's why I'm absolutely shocked that he's out.
Yeah, they would have won it elsewhere, not in Philadelphia, though.
They've both been gone.
It actually probably could happen
with
as well.
Ben Simmons just waiting there, and he would have been the one left behind. That's a fun multiverse. We'll do that at a future date.
You saying that
the
Sixers made the wrong choice, keeping Ben Simmons over Jimmy Butler?
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think history is going to look back on that one too kindly. So we are setting up for something here, which is the showdown between the 76ers and the Knicks. Okay, now this is going to get obnoxious on our show. So I think I've come up with the solution, and I'm wondering if Bogusch and Bellotti will be on board with this for me. So we need
Vacation?
All right, where are we going? Me, Pete, and Bogusch are going to Aruba while you guys can fight this out. There's got to be guardrails around you two, and I'm talking about Perloff and EJ, for how much you're going to fight about this series. Right?
Wow,
I mean, you're kind of conceding it in this weird way.
Which is a
Such a
strategic
Perloff
play.
move.
He knows what he's doing.
Such a Perloff move.
Did you watch that game last night?
You know, we all see what
Nicholas
he's doing.
Batum. What the heck? I'm going to go out there and say, "Oh, my 37-year-old Frenchman's going to beat your team." Like, what kind of stance is that as a sports
I
fan?
don't know. If the Knicks let him walk into a couple more threes, I think he's going to be fine. But anyway,
I need to interject for 1 second, though, because as I know, as much as you want to travel with Pete, I have to remind you that Pete apparently is a Knick fan as well.
Don't start with apparently.
So he needs to go inside EJ's guardrails. This is about
Okay.
the two of them versus Perloff.
well, I need Pete for this one. So you're going to have to be an objective and just a neutral party on this. If this
Gotcha.
is going to work.
How is it going to be a battle, though?
Well, wait, I just want to tell you, it doesn't matter because you guys will fight over the 10th guy in the bench. Like this is the actual game is the only part of the conversation between the Knicks and the 76ers. This is what I propose. Anytime you guys start talking about this Knicks 76ers series too much, I get to play the fart drums. I know you guys don't like the fart drums, so
the what?
the fart drums. The thing I sent you the other day. The drums.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Okay.
They're terrible.
I think it's funny, and you guys don't like it. But I think it's a little tit for tat. If you're going to get the 76ers Knicks talk, then I want a little of the fart.
Well, the problem, though, with that proposal is you're the arbitrator for what is too much Knicks Sixers,
You're
which
damn
is
right.
not fair because me and Perloff could just mention Jalen Brunson and you walk out of the room. Or
I'm telling you, this is
that's
what
not fair.
This is why Pete has to be neutral on this, and also Bogusch will also be part of the committee. So these are a set of drums that instead of playing drum sounds, play fart sounds. And I think it's hilarious, and you guys think I'm a child.
Yes.
So a little, this for that.
How do fart sounds equate playoff basketball between the Knicks and the Sixers? How does that make sense?
By the way, have we ever?
Thank you. This is the best thing I've ever proposed.
Do you know how many discussions EJ and I've had about the Knicks Sixers? 0.0. Every discussion with EJ is about the Knicks, and now like he doesn't even see other teams in the league. This is everything is orange and blue. So and. I get it. Honestly, it should be anytime the Knicks are mentioned, I think we should play the fart drums.
Listen,
How? They're the second best team in the East.
See that energy? It has nothing to do with me. I'm an innocent bystander.
Sure.
Okay, so we can play fart jokes for the second best team in the AFC next year?
The guy wearing the Iverson sweatshirt has no idea how we're ever talking about the 76ers.
He's wearing 76ers stuff, by the way.
Every day this week.
Every day this week.
We're
Yeah,
not
I know, but I never talk
stuff?
about it on air.
Right.
I've worn nothing.
Well,
this
I'm not
week.
talking about the rally pimp, but I'm still wearing his shirt today. So, there's a lot of ways to get things
what
across.
is that, by the way?
This is the rally
You guys
pimp.
keep talking about the rally pimp. I have no idea. Is this a Mets thing?
Yeah, we don't want you to know.
No,
It's good that you don't know. You'll ruin it.
Ruin it.
Or you'll be a
You'll
Mets
like,
fan
you
next
Mets
Wednesday.
fans, you're so pathetic, even though Phillies have only won 2 World Series. Same
Wait,
as the Mets.
you don't need me to
Terrell,
ruin
your team.
anything connected to the Mets is automatically ruined by connection to the Mets.
Yeah,
so why would
This is
he?
why I didn't mention it.
Fart
Exhibit
drums.
A.
So I had Carlos cut this yesterday. We never got to it. We do have it. No, I asked Carlos to cut this yesterday as a little secret thing.
Oh, it's so secret I don't know where it is.
It's fine. I'll get it to
Secrets
you.
from everybody, apparently.
It's exactly what you think it is. And if you guys are going to talk about this basketball series, I think I should get a little something too. Bogusch has headlines. Good morning.
The Miami Heat have a game tomorrow night. As we just heard, Jimmy Butler apparently doesn't have a game tomorrow night. The new report this morning from The Athletic is that Butler will miss multiple weeks with this right knee injury suffered in the loss in Philadelphia last night, 105-104 the final. His Heat did build a 13-point lead on those Sixers after he got hurt, but they end up losing by 1. Butler said post-game he'd get an MRI. He thought he let the team down by getting hurt, and now the extra bad prognosis this morning about that right knee. It's the Bulls that Miami has to play tomorrow night to keep their season alive. Chicago ending the Hawks season last night, 131-116. Kobe White scoring a career-high 42 in the 9-10 game of the East play. And the Sixers, meanwhile, by beating Miami last night, get to prep for those Knicks. Game 1 is Saturday, 6 p.m. Eastern time, EJ?
Correct.
There we go. Zion Williamson will miss tomorrow night's Pelicans-Kings elimination game with the left hamstring issue he suffered late in the loss to the Lakers. He will not be reevaluated for 2 weeks, so Zion would miss round 1 as well if New Orleans advances.
Round 1 of this year's playoffs or next year's playoffs too?
Jeez.
Or 2027?
All first rounds.
We will not see that man until after the All-Star break. Guarantee it.
Which All-Star break? Clippers head coach Ty Lue says they're planning on Kawhi Leonard playing Game 1 with the Mavs this weekend, but Kawhi is not doing 5-on-5 work yet this week at practice after missing their last 8 regular season games with right knee swelling. And Damian Lillard went through a Bucks walkthrough yesterday. He finished the regular season battling a left adductor issue.
So, by the way, they make guys now, the load management is like way more punitive, right? And you can't be eligible for the postseason awards if you don't win the 65 or don't play the 65 games and all that stuff. And we are limping to the finish line here. I mean, there's always injuries. I get that, but doesn't it feel like everyone is hurt?
We've played 2 play-in games. We've lost Zion. We've lost Butler. We don't have Giannis. We may or may not have Kawhi. I'm sure something's going to happen in these games tomorrow night.
I do feel like the 3 of the 5 guys we are talking about are guys who are
injury prone.
Yeah, and they're the load management guys. Like the Sixers were still load managing Joel Embiid. The Clippers were still load managing Kawhi Leonard. They didn't care about those rules. So like some of it's these guys are the injury guys.
Chicken or the egg, though. They were load managing them because they know they're injury prone. I mean, and Jimmy was not. Who the other? Giannis and Jimmy are they're kind of warriors. So I'm not sure you can't. You're saying that load management is the reason these guys get hurt?
Giannis got hurt last year. He gets hurt a lot more, I think you guys realize.
Giannis? I don't put him in the Kawhi Leonard.
Missed the playoff games last year.
I mean, we're talking Kawhi.
I'm not saying he's on that level. I'm saying that these are the guys that you'll see miss a game every now and then because they want to sit him.
Just feels like we're really limping into the playoffs here. What else you got, Bogusch?
Dawn Staley has built a basketball dynasty at South Carolina, but more people saw her team win another national title earlier this month because they were playing CaitlinClark.
I want women's basketball to grow. And I'm not too shy about saying why it grows. She's made it grow over the past 2 years.
So I guess the question, though, is which numbers are sustainable for women's college basketball with Clark now off into the WNBA?
What do you mean? That's the concern. I guess the concern, quote unquote, is that this was 97% CaitlinClark. Right.
And the numbers that were going in the right direction, but still were dwarfed by what she did this year.
Yep.
Like those, we go back, so to speak, to those numbers, which are still going to be good numbers, but we're not going to stay at CaitlinClark numbers.
No, I think it'd be ridiculous to hold the sport to that standard, right? Because, again, the public wants what the public wants. The public grabbed onto the Caitlin story. Now, they might grab onto Paige Beckers. They might grab onto Juju Watkins. It's possible that we go from star to star, maybe. But what are the odds of that really happening? I mean, there's going to be a little bit of a drop-off. And I don't think that means it's a failure by women's basketball.
No, not at all.
You know?
I think it's important for people to not make last year the comparison point.
Right.
Like maybe go back 2 years and go, okay, we're growing off of that number. Yeah. This was just the perfect storm.
Pitch. Yeah.
At that, but so the upward, because even like the WNBA draft numbers, it's going up slowly, and then there's just this year just goes through the roof. So just go back to that nice, normal, slow upward trajectory. Keep that going. That should be the goal.
Yeah, they should compare it to before Caitlin and after. So it was, what was it, $4.9 million 2 years ago for the final game? Then they went to 9.9 last year. So if they get closer to 9 next year, that's a huge success. I mean, Caitlin left the sport in a way better place. I agree with Coach Staley on that one.
Kyle Schwarber, the Phillies. Whatever.
Is 1-1 on the way. Schwarber rips it deep down the right side. Hooking in the corner. It is gone. It's off the facing of the second deck. And it's a 2-homer game for Kyle Schwarber. He smoked that pitch.
Where are those fart drums? Scott Fransky on Phil's Radio. 2 Schwarbombs and 3 RBI in a 7-6 win over the Rockies last night. That's a 3-game sweep for the Phils. Justin Verlander makes his season debut tomorrow when the Astros open a series in Washington. Verlander getting a late start after battling right shoulder inflammation during spring training. Last night was the final Arizona Coyotes game. The team about to be sold moved to Salt Lake City. It was an emotional night at Mullet Arena on the campus of Arizona State, a location that is not ideal for NHL hockey, which is the main reason why the team has to leave the state for Utah. But there were tears, there were goodbyes, there were signs, there was emotional sign-offs on the TV broadcast because 28 years of Arizona Coyotes hockey is now over.
That is the lowest keyed franchise move in the history of sports, right? Like
it also happened over like 72 hours.
And nobody even like sort of cared or understood what was happening, I think, except for Utah fans and Arizona fans.
And I still don't understand what's happening because the guy who owns the team now, who's selling it to the dude that owns the Jazz, he still is going to own for 5 years like the right to Arizona hockey. If he could finally get an arena deal, they would get an expansion team apparently. But I don't know, does he own the Coyotes name? Is the Coyotes history going to Salt Lake City? I don't understand. And like the NHL is going to own the team for a second, and then the dude from the Jazz is going to own it. It's really, really complicated.
So they're going to allow the guy who's selling the team to potentially have first dibs at an expansion team.
Not potentially. He has for the next 5 years, if he can get an actual arena deal done.
Right.
He can bring a team. He can start a new team in Arizona.
Wow. So he ran one franchise into the ground, and now he's going to get a second shot.
Well, he was the last person to be in charge of like 6 people that took turns running into the ground.
Got it.
Yeah.
You know what I always found really confusing? The New Orleans, Charlotte, Bobcats, sort of Hornets thing. Remember that? There was a whole mess around that.
Oh, yeah.
I still in my head can't keep track of what happened exactly. The Bobcats as a franchise are gone, right? They just dissolved totally.
Well, no, they're the Hornets.
Oh, so basically the Hornets keep the Bobcats records though.
I think they have, yeah.
Yeah, I think they haven't. I think they started over
again. They got rid of it because Kemba Walker, isn't he one of like the leading scorers? You'd have to.
So he's one of the leading Hornet scorers,
right? But he played for the Bobcats, so you'd have to keep some of his numbers for him to be ranked as high as he is.
All right, yeah, that's why I don't understand it.
It's bizarre.
Let's see. If you go back to the Charlotte Hornets, let's go back to their history. It just starts at 1988-89. So they're giving you.
But they give you all the Bobcat years.
Yeah, they're giving you the Paul Silas, Larry Brown stuff, right?
I feel like you'd have to because they're players. I mean, they're not a lot. Kemba Walker's the only guy that matters, I guess. But he might be their all-time leading scorer. Like if he's not, he's really high on the list. If you take away his Bobcats numbers, that would be significant.
Gotcha. So they just changed the name. Maybe I'm overstating this.
No, there was and then at one point
they moved.
Like the Hornet, they went to New Orleans and
right. They were in New Orleans, right?
Yeah. So
then the Bobcats came into Charlotte while they were in New Orleans,
right? And the Pelicans became a brand new thing.
I think the Pelicans relinquished all Hornets stats, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Larry Johnson's number 2.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm looking at the Hornets franchise page, and it's like Muggsy Bogues. If you go there, is in the early '90s. It's Muggsy Bogues.
But that was the Hornets.
Yeah, the Hornets.
Right.
What are you guys looking
for? The Bobcats.
Yeah, yeah. But this is going to be a similar thing with whatever's happening in Phoenix and Utah.
Yeah,
Not that
I don't
know
understand.
The all-time leading Utah hockey scorer.
And, of course, the Winnipeg Jets, because hockey loves this, also include Atlanta Thrashers history because they left Winnipeg, went to Atlanta. Atlanta didn't work, and they're now back in Winnipeg. This happens often.
Yeah, it's hard not to get disinterested in those teams.
Yeah. I wonder why it's
ridiculous.
Alone.
That's totally ridiculous.
Leave Teemu Selanne alone.
We're gonna move their history there. History stays in the state, I think, as far as I'm concerned. You move the team out of the town, it stays in the state.
Did we use "as far as I'm concerned" as a title for one of your books?
I like it.
Add it.
Yeah,
add it. Let's go.
So Chris Paul is he's among the top assist men in Pelicans history. He's never played for the Pelicans.
Right.
Yeah,
he's the all-time assist leader for the Pelicans.
So he's got that going for him.
They gotta
go
fix
back
that.
there.
They gotta fix that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Actually, that's a great fit. It's not bad.
And you know who's played the most games in Pelicans history?
Anthony Davis?
David West. Never played for the Pelicans.
Oh, right.
Wait, really?
530 games. Anthony Davis is at 466.
I got a good one. There's only one NBA All-Star from the Bobcats, according to Wikipedia. It was Gerald Wallace.
Oh, man.
Remember Gerald Wallace?
Oh, he could dunk like crazy.
Crash dummy, so they called him.
And they were the Bobcats because Bob Johnson owned them, right?
No.
Yeah, he named the team after himself.
Yeah.
You're kidding me.
Yeah, he was the founder of BET.
Yeah. And he named it Bobcats because his name was Bob?
Hell yeah. It's such a flex. And then Michael Jordan bought the team, was like, we're moving it back. We're changing it back. Not going to own a team named after some other person.
That's what I would do. The New York Bells.
As far as I'm concerned.
As far as I'm concerned. We're the New York Bells.
I'm actually surprised Michael didn't call him like the Charlotte Air or Jordans or something.
That's amazing. Well, at least the Bobcat's a real thing. That is
Charlotte
really
Air
cool.
could probably be a cool name, actually.
That's amazing. Yeah.
The Charlotte 23s would have been nice.
Oh, I love that, too.
I kind of like that, too.
Man, a little late now, Bogusch.
Yeah.
This is why he's not the owner anymore.
He sold the team.
He screwed up.
Honestly,
Some guy named Gabe Plotkin.
The Hornets could use a rebrand.
No kidding.
So just to recap, the Coyotes are moving, and we don't know if they're bringing their history to Utah.
I think they're bringing their history. I don't know if they're bringing the Coyotes' name, but the franchise information is going to go to Salt
It's not
Lake
exactly
City.
synonymous with winning. So
I mean, are there Coyotes in Utah? I think there are, right?
I mean, they're Coyotes in Long Island.
Sure,
so-
definitely. In fact, Utah. No, there are in Phoenix though.
Yeah, Phoenix. No.
Well, it's that like
Thank
that's
you, Perloff.
They all joke. There's no
Freaking National Geographic.
There's no jazz in Utah.
Right.
There's no lakes in Los Angeles.
I mean, I know there's desert and mountain areas of Utah. We all think of snow, but I don't know if
There's
coyotes
gotta
there.
be.
I would
There's gotta
assume.
be. There's everything in Utah.
I don't know. I've been to Zion National Park. I didn't remember seeing a coyote there, but
That
maybe I
feels
was
like
fortunate.
feels like a coyote could hang out there,
It
though,
feels
right?
like it could, though. It feels like it would fit.
Not that far off. Any other brain busters you guys got?
I still can't get over David West being the all-time games leader for a Pelicans franchise that he never played for.
I wonder if they'll retire his number.
But he did play for the franchise.
He played for the Hornets.
Hmm.
He played for the New Orleans Hornets. Never played for the New Orleans Pelicans, but he is the all-time games leader.
Well, let's all just also agree Pelicans is a dumb name. It hasn't grown on me at all.
Yeah.
The Pels? I like the Pels.
I don't mind the short of the Pels. Pelicans,
Like, are Pelicans really like they're a mean, nasty bird?
Yeah, you should.
I'll take your word
Google-
for it.
Google like Pelican Attack. They are a little. They're still odd looking. They're not visually like, but they'll come after you.
Does their mascot still scare children from what I saw last time?
He's the king cake baby.
Oh, yeah, that thing's so weird.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Only thing worse is the Providence Friar. That guy freaks me out.
Yeah, he's
No thanks.
It's the haircut.
Yeah. No thanks.
Yeah, the Pels logo is pretty cool. It's a mean pelican
Yeah,
right
I
there.
don't mind them Pelicans. It's not bad.
Oh,
I've
guys,
heard
come on.
worse. I've heard
They do a
worse
lot
teams.
worse.
As Pete would say, get real.
The Charlotte Hornets, by the way, could use
In
a
book
whole
4.
rebranding. Nothing about the Hornets is working. The colors, the franchise. I think that they have new owners. They got to just start over.
The Coyotes could use a rebrand too, even if they have an expansion team coming into Arizona, or if they move with Utah. That name should just get rid of that name and start over both states.
I feel like we associate bad names with losers, though, and that's the problem.
Totally.
Because like the 90s Hornets were mad cool.
Yeah.
They had the coolest. They had one of the coolest.
I didn't like that
mascots.
teal. Teal was for
that
kids.
was awesome.
Teal was.
They had a good
it's
starter
so ugly.
jacket.
It's one of the
If you
dopest
look back
throwback
at those,
jerseys, I need to get one.
You think the Miami Dolphins are not cool because they have a teal uniform?
that's technically not teal. That's dolphin blue. It's a little different. It's more aqua.
Pardon me.
76ers losers. That's what
The
happened.
76ers, honestly, the
Loser blue.
76ers 90s uniforms are the ugliest things that you will ever see in your life.
They're
Remember
bad.
the Keith Van Horn Sixers? The 90s, everyone had these weird uniforms. I
I
did
like
not
the
like.
stars shooting out of it.
No, those are
I
nasty.
liked it.
Yeah, but the
Those are
Pistons with the
nasty.
horse were worse than those.
The horse.
Oh,
No, I
that
like the
jersey.
horse.
Get
The
out of
Grant
here.
Hill
like
horse?
them?
No,
Oh,
you like
yeah.
them now because it's like
Retro.
retro.
No, I grew up
Yeah.
watching them with
No,
those uniforms.
Those ones made no sense.
Oh, I love those uniforms.
Pro Sports went banana with teal and weird stuff in the 90s and
Oh,
2000s.
well, the Nuggets
And
is the
slanted
best.
logos too,
Yeah.
like
And-
slanted themes.
You gotta love the Atlanta Hawk with just a full hawk on the front. Like, you're never gonna see that again. Just a full animal. So wings spread out.
Wait,
and
what
all.
year is this?
This is like the Kembe Mutombo Steve Smith era.
Oh, I
Yeah.
got to look at this.
Oh, yeah, that was a good one.
If I didn't hate Trae Young so much, I would have got that jersey too.
Someday we should do our great debates. It's the most shallow sports conversation ever, but the best jerseys. Because
I do think the Nuggets are up there. I mean, how do you get a rainbow on your shirt?
you mean like the old Skyline
Yeah,
Nuggets?
yeah.
That's another classic.
See, the 70s at the time, we are looking back on that. At the time, they were hideous.
Well, with Doug Moe's wearing plaid jackets on the sideline, it all fit together really
It's cool
nicely.
now. It didn't, but then it was like, what are they doing? Oh my
I
gosh!
tell you, an underrated color scheme in jersey is the Vikings.
Purple and gold?
Yeah, I think
white?
that's a nice sharp look, especially if you have a very darker color on the darker side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it looks sharp.
Their throwback unis are some of the best.
That's kind of random. I've never heard anyone who loved the Vikings uniform. It's not a much discussed uniform.
It's a pretty interesting color scheme too. Like when you think about it, when you go there, you really don't see many purple teams.
Yeah, them, the Kings.
Right.
The Mets today, apparently.
Oh, no.
The Mets City Connect's coming out today, and it's got purple in it.
Bogusch wearing a little Tulane green wave.
Yeah.
That's a great helmet. That's the best helmet in college football.
It's so good.
It's so cool.
All right, so we're doing our next great debate, greatest uniforms ever.
We just did it.
I think we just,
All right,
locked
well.
that in.
Play this again next Wednesday.
Actually, you know what? We should do that for our bracket next year, our non-sports bracket. Obviously,
Best uniforms.
Powder Blues is #1 seed.
Ooh,
Chargers, let's go. Old school.
That'd be fun. That'd be real
Do
fun.
we have to wait till next March Madness?
I don't
Feels like a
know.
long time to wait. It's
Also,
April.
I think it's the third good bracket idea we had. What was the other? Sitcoms. Oh, man. I don't know. Who said we had to wait? There's no federal rule on this. You're not allowed to do a bracket.
One is you can't pay for a Lamborghini in cash, and two, you cannot do brackets outside
There
of
are
March.
definitely lobbyists in Washington saying no brackets past March.
Sitcoms.
They must be
I'm on
drug
the selection-
dealers.
Sitcoms. I'm on the selection committee. That's it.
There you go.
Oh, wait. All in the Family? Pete? You strike with old school.
Alf's a one, I swear.
Yeah.
Off is definitely #1 seed.
#1 seed.
#1 overall seed. In fact, they get a bye to the Sweet 16.
Right.
Alfred Seinfeld
Yeah,
in the
Alfred
final.
Seinfeld is that's a first round matchup for
Perfect
Pete.
Strangers is in there. Yeah, of course. Come on.
All right, 855-212-4227. Coming up, big question mark for one of those teams in teal. We'll get to that next. It's Maggie and Perloff.
You're in a 5-minute break. Four minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Four minutes remaining. Three minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Three minutes remaining. Two minutes, 30 seconds remaining. Two minutes remaining. 1 minute, 30 seconds remaining. One minute remaining. $45 seconds remaining. $30 seconds remaining. $15 seconds. Break ends in 5 seconds.
Perloff. All right, before we get into whether or not certain quarterbacks should get paid or not paid, I just want to bring up something from the last segment, which is Perloff's basketball team and EJ's basketball team and Pete's basketball team are about to play each other in the first round of the NBA playoffs. And to put some guardrails around how much arguing we're going to hear between the Knicks and the 76ers, for every time they mention this series, I get to play the fart drums. Thank you, Pete. Fade that down now. Just a little taste.
Okay, can I get my equivalent of that?
No,
then?
you're talking about the 76ers.
Well, if there's something that you bring up a lot that I would like to bring up the fart drum.
Okay.
I feel like every time Aaron Rodgers comes up, I get the fart drum.
Wait a minute. He's interesting.
Ew. I think I speak for America when I say the Aaron Rodgers fatigue could not possibly be stronger.
Wow, so I don't get to do what the heck is Aaron Rodgers up to today?
You feel free.
So we can still do WTF Aaron Rodgers, but I'm going to get the fart drums each time?
I think so. I'm so sick of the Jets that anything involving them, I do not want to hear.
Don't
Tough
be
deal.
a freaking weirdo.
Tough deal. I do like checking in on how odd Aaron Rodgers has become.
I mean, I'm a Jets fan, and I'm tired of hearing about
I
this
mean, how
team,
can
to
you
be honest.
not possibly be tired of this whole situation? The other day, did he say whatever? He's gotten so off the rails that they're not. You have to be near the rails to be interesting.
It's getting worse.
If you say something crazy every day, aren't you just crazy? Like, don't we just ignore you at some point?
I just think he gets interviewed more often than the common person who may hold some of these beliefs.
It's like he will talk to anybody that's not
a sports reporter.
Like, he's like, oh, you're just rando podcaster? Great. I'll talk for 3 hours.
I think he's a bum.
Yeah, the latest stuff, he should really, he might want to, well, I'm not going to tell him to stay in his lane, but I don't think he's going to get positive reviews about the last thing he was
Let's just
talking
say this.
about.
I have a better
HIV
chance
drugs.
getting Aaron Rodgers an interview on my YouTube channel than I do on this show. Because I can just tell him, hey, we talk about superheroes. He's like, hey, did you hear about the superheroes that actually live in the United States?
Did you see?
The
you
mutants,
know
about them?
the
You know,
mutants, the
the
lizard
X-Men
people?
plot, that's actually a CIA contrived that they're floating out there to see what would happen. Actually, that might be true.
Yeah, great. All right, so if it's are the X-Men actually living amongst us, then Rodgers is going to be cool. If we want to ask him about the Jets' offensive line, no go.
Wait, hold on a second. You're saying the X-Men among us? I want to hear more. I'm intrigued.
I don't know. This is Rodgers' thing. All right, so we agree about the fart drums. Is everyone entered? This is something that pains EJ as the executive producer of this show.
I got to be honest. I'm thrilled because the Sixers are about to get their butts whooped by the Knicks. There's no doubt about it.
Well, if you guys want to argue about it, you're getting the drums.
Oh, and by the way, Maggie, you have no idea what's about to happen, too. This summer, anytime anybody makes a run against USA basketball team, EJ's going to throw up his hands and say, man, if Jalen Brunson was there. I mean, what are we talking? You have LeBron James and Steph Curry and one sad kid in New York who's sad because Jalen Brunson's not there.
See, I said, just like on Twitter. Thank you, Pete.
See? This is going to work out great.
It's a point now where things are being said without me saying it, and I'm getting tagged by you guys saying, oh, I guess EJ's going to complain about this. I'm like, well, then I'm right that I'm not the only one complaining about this stuff.
Well, if you even think about Jalen Brunson being snubbed for the Olympic team, we're playing the fart drums. We can read your mind now.
Wait, telepathy? What the hell's going on?
We are all telepathically connected, and I know what you're thinking.
So the X-Men are among us in this studio now, I realize.
Yes, and I am Wolverine.
I said you look like Jean Grey before, so that makes sense.
I don't know who that is.
You know who Jean Grey is? Oh, my God.
It's crazy.
Oh.
I know Jean Rayburn, but not Jean Grey.
You don't know Jean Grey either?
Who?
You never watched an X-Men cartoon? What have you guys watched all these years?
Superstars. WWF Superstars.
You guys, especially the age, the 90s X-Men show is like, how have you guys never
Maggie
seen
knew
that?
Wolverine pretty well. That's the name that pops.
Well, no, I once ran into Hugh Jackman.
There you
That's
go.
all I got. Okay. Thank you, EJ Stewart. Thank you to Pete Pilati. We never got to whether or not the Dolphins should pay Tua. We'll get to that tomorrow. Andrew Bogusch, Andrew Kaplan, Weedos, Coffee Drinkers, everybody. Dane Brugler from The Athletic. Brugler. See you tomorrow.
Bam! You and dunked in your face.